main idea is we are the Puducherry government listed out our key areas. We have listed out almost about 26 key areas like information technology, information communication, biotechnology, cyber security, internet things solutions, even marine foods, and even tourism. Tourism is our major source of income apart from the sales tax revenues, because Pondicherry is very well known to the whole country and well known to the whole world. So in the tourism sector also, we are planning to have more startups so that the job opportunities can be created, more economy, we can revive the economy. And other interesting things is even we are interested in taking this agricultural already industries also. Um, you'll be surprised to know that we have almost for this 12.5 lakh population, we are having about seven medical colleges, two government medical colleges including JIPMER, and there are about 13 engineering colleges. So it means we have a lot of workforce. The students community which are studying in the universities and engineering colleges have got a lot of innovative ideas, and they are they are willing to take up a lot of startup companies. So this is a more than 25,000 students are there in the higher institutions. We have about totally we have about higher education institutions about 95. So those students who are passing out from +2 school education are definitely joining in the higher education. Puducherry is one of the highest enrollment ratio in higher education. So the students who are pursuing their higher studies can really have a lot of innovative ideas, and we are also planning to have workshops with the industries, because industry and academic interaction really take place, and it leads to a lot of innovative ideas to form a startup companies. So with this, we are planning, and incidentally, the startup companies, the grant which we are planning to give for startup companies initially around 3 to 5 lakh as a incentive, and also those, and we are also in our policy we have also framed that employees who are working in the startup companies, we also give the salary of that startup company employees up to 5 people, from 5,000 to 10,000 rupees. And if it is a women entrepreneurship, we give more salary. We take the salary part from our government, so that the startup companies will not have the need not bear the employment cost also, salary part also, overheads also. So our we have framed a well thought, well designed a startup policy in 2019, and it is working well. And we also mentioned in our policy that, see, for all the startup companies, dreams are necessary. So once you dream, we allow people to dream, and then the dreams will get into reality. So Puducherry is a place where we have a lot of manpower, educated mass students, youngsters are more here. So we like to invite everyone, anybody from anywhere in the country, to have a startup company, to register their startup companies in Puducherry. Puducherry government will be always very proactive, and we can help them in a way. And we are having working relationship with the government of India's national bodies like Niti Aayog, and other startup companies or startup platforms in the national level. So being a small place, and you can access to every office, and we are also having planning to have easy doing business policy also. Will be very soon we'll be declaring that ease of doing business policy. It is the policy being taken at the cabinet level, and the single window clearance. All these things will have more facility for our those who are interested to take up the entrepreneurship and to start a business in Puducherry. We have a very proactive Chief Minister of Puducherry who has served at least 12 years as a Chief Minister, longest serving Chief Minister. If he completes this 5 years also, he'll be completing about 70 years of Chief Ministership in Puducherry. And he has given open call to all the industries to give all necessary clearance whenever it is required within short span of time. So this is a very congenial place, calm place. There is no communal rights, there is no communal disturbance. A very peaceful city. We have in tourism also we promote that it's a peaceful Pondicherry. So for any development, peace is the basic requirement. So Puducherry is the best place for people who can try and be a successful model of startup companies. So I take this opportunity to thank all the organizers and other counterpart states to congratulate them for organizing this function. I really thank and happy to see you all in Puducherry as quickly as possible with a more interactive and possible way of helping each other to develop the country's economy. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Shri Lakshminarayan ji. I think we would all agree that apart from being a wonderful tourist destination, the home to Auroville, Puducherry would now also make some really wonderful startups. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with all of us today.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
With that, we would now like to move on to the next session. We have with us Honorable Mr. Ajit Singh Pal, Minister of State for IT and Electronics at the state of Uttar Pradesh. Ajit Singh Pal is a Minister of State for IT and Electronics in the government of Uttar Pradesh. He is member of the Uttar Pradesh Legislative Assembly from Sikandra Assembly constituency of Kanpur Dehat district. He is a BTech, MTech and MBA, a chemical engineer turned politician. Ajit Singh Pal has been leading the IT and electronics revolution at the state of Uttar Pradesh. We at Indian Chamber of Commerce are very, very delighted and honored to have Mr. Pal with us. Sir, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद आपका. आपसे निवेदन है कि कृपया हमारे जितने भी गेस्ट आए हैं आप उनके साथ अपने विचार साझा करें. Sir, kindly unmute yourself.
वेलकम सर.
थैंक यू. बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद आपका. आज के इस कार्यक्रम में हमारे संग आए हुए हमारे पांडुचेरी के माननीय मंत्री M.K. लक्ष्मीनारायण जी, हमारे संग यहाँ बैठे हुए आशीष अग्रवाल जी, विवेक अग्रवाल जी एंड आशीष चौहान जी, सत्यव्रत साहू जी, पार्थिव न्योता जी, दीपक बागला जी, अभिषेक रुंगटा जी, यहाँ पर आए हुए सभी लोगों का बहुत बहुत स्वागत है. आज मैं उत्तर प्रदेश सरकार की जो केंद्र सरकार द्वारा उपलब्धियां उसके बारे में आप लोगों के बीच में कुछ बातें रखता हूं. जैसा कि आज स्टार्टअप मामले में दुनिया में भारत का तीसरा स्थान है. भारत ने इस दौरान अभी उभरते उद्यमियों को आगे बढ़ने में मदद की गई. इनोवेटिव टेक्नोलॉजी के साथ ये उद्यमी आगे बढ़े और इनमें से कई बड़ी कंपनी बन चुके हैं. देश में एडवांस टेक्नोलॉजी वाले नए एंटरप्राइजेस और इनोवेशन को बढ़ावा देने के लिए माननीय प्रधानमंत्री श्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी द्वारा 1000 करोड़ रुपए का स्टार्टअप इंडिया सीड फंड की शुरुआत की. इससे रोजगार के अवसर बढ़ेंगे और लोगों को जीवन में सुधार आएगा. भारत में स्टार्टअप केवल एक बड़े शहरों तक ही सीमित नहीं है, बल्कि नए उभरते 40% स्टार्टअप देश के दूसरे और तीसरे कैटेगरी के शहरों के सामने आ रहे हैं. 2014 में केवल 4 स्टार्टअप ही यूनिकॉर्न क्लब में शामिल थे, लेकिन आज 30 से ज्यादा भारतीय स्टार्टअप यूनिकॉर्न क्लब के सदस्य हैं. देश में इस समय 50,000 से ज्यादा स्टार्टअप काम कर रहे हैं. 40% स्टार्टअप ऐसे भी हैं जिनमें महिलाएं मुख्य भूमिका में. सरकार की खरीद पोर्टल जेम पर स्टार्टअप को बड़े व्यापारियों के समान अवसर उपलब्ध हैं। अब तक 8,000 के करीब स्टार्टअप पोर्टल जेम पर रजिस्टर्ड हो चुके हैं और उन्होंने 2,300 करोड़ रुपए का कारोबार भी किया है। सरकार के जेम पोर्टल पर कुल कारोबार 80,000 करोड़ रुपए का छू लिया है। स्टार्टअप में दुनिया में कोरोना वायरस से जूझ रही थी। उन्होंने संकट के इस काल में देश की आत्मनिर्भरता में योगदान दिया। उन्होंने सैनिटाइजर उपलब्ध कराने, वेंटिलेटर, पीपीई किट और ड्रोन जैसी जरूरतों की आपूर्ति महत्वपूर्ण भूमिका निभाई। कोरोना काल में राशन, दवा लोगों के दरवाजे तक पहुंचाने का भी काम किया। अग्रिम मोर्चा पर रहकर काम करने वालों के लिए परिवहन की व्यवस्था और यहाँ तक कि पढ़ाई लिखाई की सामग्री उपलब्ध कराने में भी स्टार्टअप सामने आए। यानी कठिन समय भी स्टार्टअप ने अपना अवसर तलाशा। राज्य कृषि, स्वास्थ्य, शिक्षा अन्य महत्वपूर्ण क्षेत्रों के लिए नए स्टार्टअप नीति ला रही है। इसी क्रम में उत्तर प्रदेश स्टार्टअप फंड के लिए सब्सिडी को 15 करोड़ की पहली किस्त सौंपी गई। हमारे माननीय मुख्यमंत्री जी योगी आदित्यनाथ जी के निर्देश पर यूपी स्टार्टअप का काम तेज हो गया। प्रदेश ने इसके लिए 150 करोड़ रुपए का कॉमर्स फंड बनाया। प्रदेश के 100 इंक्यूबेटर की स्थापना हर जिले में की जा रही है। लखनऊ में देश के सबसे बड़े इंक्यूबेटर की स्थापना की जा रही है। हमारी नई स्टार्टअप नीति के तहत हम अपने अधिक से अधिक युवाओं को अपना स्टार्टअप लगाने के लिए प्रेरित कर रहे हैं। सब्सिडी के साथ जो आदान प्रदान और समझौता ज्ञापन प्रदेश निश्चित रूप से उससे स्टार्टअप की स्थापना में गति आएगी और स्टार्टअप संस्कृति को बढ़ावा मिलेगा। उत्तर प्रदेश में तमाम संभावनाएं हैं। यहाँ के युवाओं के पास नई सोच, विचार और अवधारणाएं हैं, लेकिन उसका उपयोग अभी तक नहीं किया गया था। वर्तमान सरकार ने इस विषय पर ध्यान दिया है। मुख्यमंत्री योगी आदित्यनाथ जी के निर्देश पर यूपी स्टार्टअप फंड का काम तेज हो गया है। प्रदेश सरकार ने इसके लिए 150 करोड़ रुपए का कॉमर्स फंड बनाया है। इसके अलावा 4 कंपनियों ने स्टार्टअप परियोजना की आर्थिक मदद में रुचि दिखाई। सरकार द्वारा स्टार्टअप को उसके परिकल्पना के स्तर पर फंडिंग, पेमेंट के लिए पंजीयन, घरेलू व इंटरनेशनल आयोजनों में प्रतिभाग के लिए अब्दुल कलाम प्रौद्योगिकी विश्वविद्यालय सहायता से 150 करोड़ रुपए का कॉमर्स फंड की स्थापना की गई है। स्टार्टअप के वित्त पोषण की समस्या के समाधान के अतिरिक्त स्टार्टअप के विकास के लिए स्टार्टअप इकोसिस्टम विकसित किया जा रहा है। प्रदेश में 100 इंक्यूबेटर्स की स्थापना हर जिले में की जा रही है और लखनऊ देश में सबसे बड़ा इंक्यूबेटर की स्थापना की जाएगी। स्टार्टअप, अगर हम स्टार्टअप और स्मॉल बिजनेस की बात करें, तब ये प्रारंभिक दौर में फाउंडर्स सेविंग, दोस्तों, फैमिली या मेंबर या फिर बैंक लोन से ही फंड्स किया जाता है। लेकिन अगर स्टार्टअप सक्सेसफुल रहा तो इसे एंगल इन्वेस्टर से एडिशनल फंडिंग मिलती है और बाद में वेंचर कैपिटलिस्ट से और उसके बाद आईपीओ से। स्टार्टअप हमेशा इनोवेशन की जरूरत होती है और जिनकी हाई स्केलेबिलिटी होती है। और जब भी हम ट्रेडिशनल बिजनेस की बात करते हैं वहां ग्रोथ के लिए हम कम स्टेबिलिटी रहती है, लेकिन स्टार्टअप की बात कुछ अलग ही है, क्योंकि कंपनीज बहुत ही जल्दी बढ़ती हैं, बहुत ही कम समय में पूरे देश में बड़ी मार्केट को कैप्चर करती हैं। लेकिन भारत में ज्यादातर स्टार्टअप टेक्नोलॉजी बेस्ड होते हैं जिनका लो कॉस्ट, हाई स्केलेबिलिटी होती है। टेक्नोलॉजी दुनिया में तेजी से बदल रही है। जितने बदलाव पिछले 20 वर्षों में नहीं हुए, उससे अधिक बदलाव आने वाले 7-8 वर्षों में हो जाएंगे। इसका एक ही उदाहरण है, एक ही कारण है। टेक्नोलॉजी आज के समय में जितनी तेजी से बदलाव हो रहा है, ऐसा पहले कभी नहीं हुआ। इंटरनेट ऑफ थिंग्स, इस टेक्नोलॉजी के मदद से आने वाले समय में कई आसान हो जाएंगे। जैसे केक बनाने का सामान, ओवन खुद ही बंद हो जाएगा, कमरे में आने पे लाइट खुद जलती बंद हो जाएगी। प्रतिदिन कार्यों में होने लगेगा। जिस तरह कुछ वर्षों से पहले कंप्यूटर ने हमारे कार्य करने के तरीके में बदल दिया था, वैसे ही रोबोट्स भी हमारे कार्य करने के तरीके को बदल देंगे। भविष्य में शायद रियलिटी और वर्चुअल रियलिटी में फर्क करना मुश्किल हो जाएगा। गेम्स के अलावा भविष्य में इसका उपयोग हेरिटेज, शिक्षा, मनोरंजन, बिजनेस आदि कई क्षेत्रों में किया जाएगा। 3D प्रिंटिंग का उपयोग साइकिल से लेकर हवाई जहाज के पार्ट्स, खिलौने, मेटल की वस्तुएं, खाद्य उत्पाद, मानव अंग, मकान और कई तरह की वस्तुएं बनाने में हुआ। वर्तमान समय में सबकी शानदार नई टेक्नोलॉजी में से एक है। प्रौद्योगिकी के साथ हम भी नवाचार कर रहे हैं। प्रौद्योगिकी में ने हमें इंटरनेट की मदद से कंप्यूटर शिक्षा उपयोग करने में सक्षम बनाया है, और साथ ही प्रौद्योगिकी ने क्लाउड पर एप्लीकेशन और सॉफ्टवेयर का उपयोग करना भी संभव बना दिया है। प्रौद्योगिकी ने भी उत्पादन में वृद्धि और इनसे मशीनों की प्रतिक्रिया को अधिक कुशल बनाने का काम किया गया है। जी बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद माननीय अजीत पाल सिंह जी। आपने कई सारी तकनीकों के बारे में बात की, किस तरह से स्टार्टअप्स आज न तो सिर्फ भारत में बल्कि दुनिया की कई समस्याओं का समाधान कर रहे हैं। नई तकनीक जैसे IoT, वर्चुअल रियलिटी, और किस तरह से उत्तर प्रदेश सरकार और साथ ही साथ भारत सरकार ने स्टार्टअप्स की काफ़ी मदद की है और सराहना की है। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद आपका हमारे साथ जुड़ने के लिए। Thank you so much. With this, we would like to once again invite Mr. Satyabrata Sahu ji, Principal Secretary at Department of MSME, Government of Orissa. He had to rejoin due to some technical problems. Mr. Sahu, thank you so much for joining us today. Request you to kindly share your thoughts with all of us. Over to you. Kindly unmute yourself, sir.
Okay. It's okay now?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Namaskar to all, and sorry for the inconvenience. I am at home actually because my wife was tested positive yesterday. So I am in isolation. That is the reason I am not able to attend from office. So thanks CII for organizing this National Startup Week from 4th of October to 9th of October. And am I visible and audible?
Yes, Mr. Sahu. All good. Please go ahead.
So to begin with, I welcome our Honorable Minister Information Technology from Union Territory of Puducherry, Mr. K. Lakshmi Narayan ji, our Honorable Minister Information Technology from the Government of Uttar Pradesh, Sri Ajit Pal Singh ji, and all other dignitaries who are organizing this beautiful one-week celebration to commemorate the works done under the National Startup Ecosystem. I congratulate Indian Chamber of Commerce on conducting this beautiful event. ICC, as all of us know, they are at the forefront of addressing industry-specific issues. Not only in startup, they are also working on the investment front, from the marketing and supporting to the industries front, and all other arena. They are working beautifully. And in our state also, ICC branch is very active. They have taken a very good step in wealth creators for the next decade or so. So I congratulate them for organizing and inviting me to this program. And without wasting much time, I will straight away go to the Startup Odisha ecosystem, which this Odisha Startup Policy we have started in 2016. And within a year or two, maybe after 2018-19, the survey was made, and Odisha was found amongst the top few states. In fact, it was the leader state since 2019. After Gujarat and Kerala, we are ranked third by the DPIT, the Ministry of Government of India. Independent survey they have done, and they have ranked Odisha at number 3. The reason behind this is the very robust startup policy by the state of Odisha under the dynamic leadership of our Honorable Chief Minister, Sri Naveen Patnaik ji. All of us know there is a very stable government in the state of Odisha, and the climate and the atmosphere and the ambience is quite friendly for setting off not only large industries, even small and medium industries. And we are trying our best to create innovative mind amongst our entrepreneurs amongst the graduates who are passing out from different technical institutes across the state, and even people from NITs, IIT, and all other important technical institutes of the state. They are coming up with bright, brilliant ideas. And since I have worked in Government of India, I was there since 2013 to 2020 for 7 long years in different capacities in the Ministry of Rural Development, Agriculture, and Transport. So I know how the country is progressing across the globe. So my point is, in Odisha also we have done something which has been narrated by Mr. Pani previously. I was hearing, but I was not able to see. So due to this technical problem, but funding and incentive is one part of our startup policy. And due to this, we have so far registered almost 1134 startups, out of which almost 500 startups are women-led startups. And most of the startups are doing well. And we have also recognized 17 odd incubators and received more than 250 grants and investment opportunities. The focus of our startup policy is to promote the entrepreneurs, and for which we have started a Odisha Hub, which is a central incubator to be inaugurated by our Honorable Chief Minister sometime in November. And this is world-class infrastructure for inclusive incubation. And the proposed OHub will help the corporate in identifying suitable startups for co-creation, forging business, participations, and assessing the high potential startups for investment. And like other states, I heard from other states, they have also started fund of funds. In Odisha also, we have started from our budget 100 crores fund of funds. And through fund of funds, we plan to attract alternate investment funds to invest in Odisha-based startup. To promote the local investors, we are also doing a series of events. We have connected to the startups for their finance to the SLBC State Level Bankers Committee. And majority of the bank heads have been asked to finance the startups who have already devised and developed their products or the prototypes. The Startup Connect program in different departments is also going on. Every month we meet 4 to 5 departments, and in what way these startup products can be utilized in the department, that is also being planned. And we are also showing a showcase program by nearly twice in a year. And this is being organized because of COVID situation. This is not being done regularly, but we are virtually also organizing this type of program. Then procurement from the startups is also a very major step under the Odisha procurement policy released by the Finance Department of the state. We have also planned to procure minimum 20% from the startup products without allowing them to participate in the tender. So this is a good initiative, whereas the handholding and marketing support can also be provided to the startups. Corporate Connect program also we are organizing. Startups can have hands-on experience in doing business with the market players, and these corporates will be offering a recommendation in developing products, etc. So this we are doing in association with different corporates, both government both government as well as private, like government corporates like SAIL, NALCO, and NTPC, and all we are planning that. And also private corporates are there, large number of plants are there, industries are there. We are also planning with that. Inclusion of innovation and entrepreneurship syllabus in schools. Since I am holding also the charge of school education department, so there also we have tried and focused on skilling in schooling, entrepreneurship in schooling, because all these 9, 10, 11, 12 students, they are not supposed to get IITs, NITs, or AIIMS or any other good institutions. They have to be told what are the different types of professions available, what are the different entrepreneurship skills available. So most of these young boys and girls cross 15, 16, 17, 18, these are the age, these are the time where, these are the classes where we as a Department of School Education, we want to promote startup and entrepreneurship skills amongst the students. A low achiever student may not be good at mathematics or science or any other thing. He may not get a good college to pursue his higher studies. But if he's a good entrepreneur, he has some other skill that we are locating by engaging them in different activities in the school, and the school transformation program is also going on in a big way in the state. So this is the way with some of the initiatives we have taken, and some of the good startups I want to highlight. You can also contact them. Edgerix is a startup, is a medtech startup developed affordable and accessible non-invasive. कोई सुई नहीं लगा के हम इसका ब्लड टेस्ट कर सकते, माने ब्लड का पैरामीटर देख सकते हैं. That is the idea. Point of care diagnostic device age check that can detect anemia, diabetes, and predict liver, lungs, and kidney functions. So this is a very good startup, and we are promoting it. And this is a company called Edgerex. Then Baleshwar Agro Private Limited, a agri-tech startup. They have developed low-cost seed sowing machines for groundnuts, costing around 7,000, and has already provided the seed sowing machines to more than 4,000 small farmers in Baleshwar, Mayurbhanj, and different other districts of the state. Then Inocool Materials and Additives Private Limited is a manufacturing startup that offers specialty chemicals and additives for the Indian mineral industries, and which are being supplied now to JSW, Jindal, Tata Steel, and Nalco. Similarly, Aveti Learning Private Limited, in the education sector, we are now teaching people in a hybrid mode, because in many parts of the country, mobile connectivity is an issue. In my state, almost 40% area are connected, 60% we are unable to reach to the mobile to the students. So online teaching is big problem, and we have started smart classrooms and other things in different parts of the state. So Aveti Learning is doing online teaching. It is a edutech startup. The alumni are from the NIT Rourkela, and they provide smart class solutions and learning solutions from class 1 to class 12. And this is a very low cost platform with a cost of around 15,000 per school. They are taking very less amount, and they are providing beautiful study materials online to the school students. Then OMJ Electric Vehicle Limited. This is another EV startup which is working towards manufacturing, development, and sale of electric vehicles, e-scooters, and e-bikes. And Odisha government, with the dynamic leadership of our Honorable Chief Minister, they have approved this Odisha e-vehicle policy very recently. And there are a lot of incentives are given if somebody is using the e-vehicle. And here this OMJ EV Limited will be the greatest beneficiary. This is a startup, and they are producing e-scooters, e-bikes very close to Cuttack city. And the startup, with current presence of 115 dealers across 12 states in India, has already sold 7,000 plus products. So this is a startup from Odisha, OMJ EV Limited. Haripriya Agro Private Limited, it is also a startup which is doing something from rice husk, and he is preparing the ash granule. I have visited recently in a far-flung area of the state, that is Kalahandi. In the Kalahandi district, he is just from waste to wealth, you can tell it. From the rice husk ash, they are preparing granules, and these granules are being supplied to foreign countries. It is being supplied to different parts of the world. And the powder insulator is very useful for the steel industries. Even the steel industries of Odisha, they are using, in addition to the outside countries like Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Taiwan, Bahrain, etc. Then eSaveU is a fintech company providing banking solutions to the unbanked mass of the society. As you know, 70% of the panchayats of the state are connected to some kind of bank. Other areas there is banking problem also, like mobile connectivity. Banking network is also a problem in a state where a large number of area districts are hilly districts. So there, this company is providing banking solution. The startup is having 10 plus major banks in India. At almost 1 lakh retailers are there. 1,200 crores transaction processing is done per month, and almost 25,000 villages are connected across the state, across the country, in addition to India. So these are few examples of good startups which are doing well, and we want to support, and we want to convert the startups into a company. And we are also planning to focus on the women self-help groups. If some enterprising skills are there, and the women self-help groups are producing different types of handicrafts, handlooms, and other products, because Odisha is a land of culture. So there we are planning for marketing of their products also. So these are, in a nutshell, what is the ecosystem in Odisha. We are very much keen to invite everybody to visit our ecosystem. We are amongst the top 3 states of the country. So really this state is doing well, and we need the support of everybody, and we can learn from each other. If Uttar Pradesh is doing something great, If Tamil Nadu, Puducherry is doing something great, if Kerala is doing something great, so our team will cross-learn from them. And after COVID, I am sending group of officers to different parts to learn so that the same thing can be replicated here. So with these few words and deliberations, I again convey my gratitude to CII for inviting me to this particular event. Thank you very much. Namaskar.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sahu. I'm sure Indian Chamber of Commerce and Government of Orissa would work together to strengthen this startup ecosystem. Thank you so much for sharing your words with all of us today. With this, we would now like to move on to the next speaker for the day. I take the opportunity to invite Mr. Parthiv Neotia, Chairman at ICC Next, the startup initiative by Indian Chamber of Commerce. Mr. Neotia is Director at Ambuja Neotia Group. He is also he also runs various interesting initiatives such as the Neotech Hub, an incubator based out of Kolkata. He has emerged as a leader in the hospitality sector of Ambuja Neotia Group, heading its managerial and operational division with a special emphasis on the pan-India growth of brands such as T-Junction and Uno Chicago Bar and Grill. Parthiv has completed his undergraduation from La Martiniere for Boys and moved to the US to pursue his Bachelor's of Science degree in Entrepreneurship and Economics from Babson, Massachusetts. While in college, Parthiv worked as the head of business development at Detrapel at Boston, USA, where he was responsible for extending operations and distribution. Very, very glad to have Mr. Neotia with us, requesting Mr. Parthiv Neotia to kindly share your thoughts with all of us today. Over to you, Mr. Neotia.
Thank you, Ravi. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, welcome everyone to the Startup Week. Personally quite excited for this event. Today, because of COVID, we are seeing new forms of new ways to host events and bring people together. And in some cases, I must say it's far more efficient and very productive. So I'm quite excited for everyone to be here. On behalf of ICC Next, I would like to express my special gratitude to Mr. Ajit Pal Singh, IT Minister, Government of Uttar Pradesh, Mr. K. Lakshminarayanan, Honorable Minister of Honorable IT Minister Puducherry, Mr. S. Sahu, IAS Principal Secretary, Department MSME, Government of Orissa. And I would also like to thank Mr. Deepak Bagla, MD and CEO Invest India, for his presence and for his support throughout the initiative of ICC Next. So ICC Next is a rather new sub-chamber under the wing of ICC. It started 2 years back with the objective of promoting open innovation, policy advocacy, and startup investments. We realized that one of the best ways we can help startups is to provide a link between the traditional corporate world and the new age startup ecosystem through the platform of open innovation, corporate adoption, and incubation. Another thing that we also realized was the startup ecosystem in India was growing rapidly, now the third largest in the world. And definitely the policies in the country had to evolve with the needs of the startups, whether it was sector specific, whether it was something at large. So one of the biggest initiatives that we do as ICC Next is to conduct roundtables with all stakeholders in the startup ecosystem, which includes government, startups, investors, academia, to understand their policy requirements and try and recommend that to the center and state governments. And finally, also facilitate startup investments and connections. As a pool of thousands of members, ICC has access to great talent, has access to great network, and which we would like to extend further to the startup community. Over the years, ICC has not only focused on regions which are high on startup growth like Bangalore and Delhi, but they also focus on providing equal opportunity to startups in tier 2, tier 3 cities. The idea of ICC Next is to provide a support system for all the stakeholders and to bring them together on the same platform in order to encourage innovation, in order to encourage entrepreneurship. Leading by the Honorable Prime Minister's objective with Startup India, that was one of the inspirations for our ICC Next program, is to create economic growth for the country and also to create a large amount of employment. This event is rather special. It's a week-long event, first of its kind, done by ICC, which will focus on technologies like fintech, deep tech, real estate, health tech, defense, agri-tech, and many more sessions. We are going to have startup pitches every day. We are going to have great speakers and panel discussions from eminent personalities all over India, which will be on different topics, and it will also facilitate an opportunity for a lot of new age entrepreneurs to learn from people who have already done it in the past. We have invited people from the banking sector. We have invited people from the academia in order to facilitate further discussions on topics of fintech, to promote research and development with academia institutions as well as the corporate world. Something which is very special for us in the ICC Startup Week is that we've been able to bring in many state representations to also participate with us in order to promote and advocate for their startup policies, and also give opportunity to startups in order to leverage state connections in order to flourish. Furthermore, we've also been able to partner with many countries to provide bilateral opportunities for startups, both from India as well as from the other countries like Russia, South Korea, Nigeria, and South Africa. These are some of the countries that are participating with us today in the following sessions in the Startup Week. And I'm also excited to announce that ICC will be signing an MOU with Innovate Dalban to strengthen the ties between the startup ecosystem of India and South Africa further. And I hope in the further sessions that we have in this week and beyond that, we will be partnering with many countries in order to provide opportunities for our companies here in foreign markets, as well as foreign countries, foreign startups in the Indian markets. With these few words, I wish all the startups an enriching week ahead. I wish all the participants utmost success in their objectives as they head towards the Startup Week. Thank you, everyone. And I hope you enjoy what we have planned for you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Neotia. I really appreciate you sharing your thoughts with all of us, all the startups today. With that, we would like to invite the next speaker for the day, Mr. Abhishek Rungta. He would be sharing vote of thanks for this session. Before I invite Mr. Rungta, I would also like to take this opportunity to announce that Mr. Deepak Bagla, Managing Director and CEO Invest India, due to some technical challenges, he was not able to join the inaugural session. He would be joining us at 12:30 p.m. today, right after the session, Government Support to Startups. So stay tuned to hear to Mr. Bagla and all the other speakers for the day. I take this opportunity to invite Mr. Abhishek Rungta, co-chair at ICC Next. Mr. Rungta is founder and CEO at IndusNet Technologies, and he's also a partner at Seedrs. Over the last 20 years, Mr. Rungta has built an award-winning digital innovation venture, IndusNet Technologies. IndusNet Technology, also known as INT, has a team of 750 plus full-time professionals supporting 200 plus active clients across banking, financial services, insurance, retail, publishing, media, government, healthcare, and entertainment sectors in 5 continents. I would like to take this opportunity to invite Mr. Rungta to share the vote of thanks for the inaugural session at India Startup Week by Indian Chamber of Commerce. Mr. Rungta, thank you for joining in. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Ravi. Thanks for inviting me. First of all, I think, I have been listening to the deliberations in the morning, and it looks like, everybody is on their own startup journey. So, I would like to specifically thank Honorable Minister, Mr. Ajit Pal Singh, Honorable IT Minister of Government of Uttar Pradesh, for spending his time with us. Honorable IT Minister K. Lakshmi Narayanan of Union Director of Puducherry. Mr. Satyabrata Sahu, IS Officer, Principal Secretary, Department of MSME, Government of Odisha. And obviously we will look forward to hear from Mr. Deepak Bagla shortly. And thank you so much, Mr. Vikash Agarwal, for putting your words, and Parthiv Neotia, Chairperson ICC Next, for sharing your thoughts. My parting thoughts about this whole event is that I think the energy of startup is very much reflecting in all the people who are participating, whether they are starting a startup or supporting a startup or making policies around them. The agility and the nimbleness that I see today and which has evolved over last 2 decades is worth a lot of praise, because I think this is paving the way for India to be the startup capital of the world. the number of companies which are coming out successfully, be them being either unicorns or bootstrapped companies, I think we are continuously breaking records in terms of successful businesses which are being put in the orbit from India. So I think there will be a wonderful event. This is a very unique model that has been put together as a startup week from ICC, and I congratulate wholeheartedly Dr. Rajiv Singh and the whole team, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart for bringing this to such a fruition, such a beautiful event where thousands of people are attending it. I think more than 200 startups are pitching. This is something which is of massive scale, and more so coming from Eastern India, which is not so popularly known on the startup ecosystem. I think with this kind of an event, Dr. Singh, you and the entire team is putting Kolkata on the startup map in a very prominent position now, not just being present, but it will be looked up to. And people will start following what you are doing here. So thank you so much, the whole organizing team and ICC. Most importantly, thank you so much for all the sponsors for coming forward and contributing to this noble cause. And last but not the least, each and every attendee who is spending their valuable time, right, networking, meeting, interacting with people, and taking away takeaways from this interesting session. Thank you so much for your time. You have a lot of different ways to spend your time, and we are thankful that you have decided to spend it and invest it in this event. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rungta. Really appreciate your closing thoughts with all of us. That brings us to the end of the inaugural session for the launch of India Startup Week. I would like to take this opportunity once again to invite Dr. Rajiv Singh, Director General at Indian Chamber of Commerce, to conclude the opening inaugural session. Dr. Singh.
Thank you. Let me start by thanking Mr. Rungta for joining us and for supporting. I think we, together with the support from President, ICC, Mr. Neotia, Mr. Rungta, you and the entire team, we have been able to do this. We are doing this for the first time. There are plenty of learning for us, and we hope to improve. One unique thing what we could add this time is the Industry Startup Connect. We are having 4 sessions, one on agro and food, one is on real estate, there is one session on defense, and we also have education. And our idea is to connect healthcare also, to connect startups who want to test their ideas, who are looking for clients with the industry. So these 4 sectoral sessions will be held on 8th and 9th October. So I would request all the startups, depending on their interest, to join and to interact with the industries, because after all, they are the clients. And we are truly excited, and we hope to do this on a much bigger scale. And as a follow-up to this, we look forward to engage closely with the state government of Odisha, Puducherry, UP. We also have other state partners who have come on board in a very big way, and they will be having their state sessions, that is state of Meghalaya and the state of Karnataka. And there are other state governments also who have expressed their interest to be there with us, not as a partner, but to see and to join. So ICC team is there to support all the startups, and we are truly happy and excited with the response which we have got. With this, I would like to thank you, everybody, once again. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Singh. We are just getting started, and this was the inaugural session for the India Startup Week by Indian Chamber of Commerce. We move on to the next session, which is a very interesting session named Government Support to Startups. For this session, we have 2 wonderful speakers joining us today. We have with us Ms. Astha Grover. Ms. Grover is the head of Startup India Hub at Invest India. Astha has over 6.5 years of experience in the consulting and strategy domain. Prior to joining Invest India, she has worked with HSBC Bank and A.T. Kearney. Her experience ranges across financial institutions group, working on projects from APAC and EMEA region in the domains of market entry, competitive benchmarking, and innovation. Thanks a lot for joining today, Astha.
There is Astha and Palak also.
Yeah. while we wait for Ms. Grover to join, we have with us also Ms. Palak Kaur Bhatia. Ms. Bhatia is the Senior Manager at Startup India. She has been working at Invest India for over 5 years, worked in various positions. Before Invest India, she has expertise working in the media industry, worked with the Economic Times, Times Ascent, and Mumbai Mirror. We are very, very glad to have Ms. Grover and Ms. Bhatia joining us today for this session, which would talk about government support to startups. Requesting both the speakers to kindly take the stage and take the session ahead.
Thank you, Ravi. Thank you for that introduction. Unfortunately, Artha and Palak both won't be able to join. They have been called at a last-minute meeting in the ministry. So I would just like to give a brief intro about myself. And then if you allow me the screen sharing rights, I'll be taking this forward.
Certainly.
Yes. Since this was a customized link sent to Asta, I don't know how to change my name.
I would do that. If you can help me with the name once again, please.
Yes, my name is Salil Seth.
Sure, I would take care of that. Please go ahead.
Yes, SALILSETH. So along with Asta and Palak, I also joined the Startup India team at Invest India back in 2006. One of the founding members of Startup India team. We all three, along with a couple of others, started this.
You can share your screen, Salil, if you would like.
Yes, I'll just share my presentation as well. Ravi, if you could confirm.
Perfect, yes.
So Startup India is a flagship scheme of our launch of our government of India, launched by Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi back in Jan 2016. Startup India was launched as part of an action plan. We had primarily 19 action points, wide ranging from incubation support to provide funding to startups, hand-holding them, with the three main objectives. First is simplification and hand-holding, simplifying the laws that exist out there in the country for startups, promote and increase ease of doing business, and hand-holding startups through their journey. As we got into the ecosystem, we understood that there might be innovators, but they necessarily may not be entrepreneurs, and we will always need hand-holding and support in converting their innovative idea into a commercially viable solution or a business. So that was one aspect of Startup India when we launched. Second objective which was given to us was funding support and incentive. Majorly, we were expected to launch funding schemes, which we also did, and provide various host incentives, which I'll talk about in the later part of my presentation. And third is the industry academia partnership and incubation. So back in 2016, when the Startup India was launched, we did analysis of the ecosystem, took a stock take, and we realized that a lot of innovation was taking place inside academic institutions throughout the country, but it was happening in silos. Like institutions in North were not aware about what institutions were doing in South, and similarly for East India and West India. So one of the things we did through Startup India is provide a nodal agency for all this. We acted as a nodal agency for all this academic institution and kind of tried to bring them together at one common platform. So now, before getting into what exactly Startup India is, how you can get recognized with us, what all type of government support is available today out there for startups, I would just like to share that how we have divided and segregated startups at our end, and what we try to provide for startups at each and every stage. So right at the first, when a startup is in ideation stage, we have learning and development program listed on our website. In collaboration with Upgrad, we have launched a customized entrepreneurship learning and development module, which is a 4-week program available in both English and Hindi. It's a certified program. It's a paid program available totally for free through our website. Then second is the resource partners. We realized that in first 6 months of a startup's entrepreneur's journey, you need a host of resources. Now, it could be for someone setting up a website, it could be cloud credits, If someone is trying to register their company, it could be a legal help, or if you're trying to file your taxes or GST, it could be CAL. So with our corporate partnership, we have established a vertical called Resource Partners. You can go and check it out, where we, in partnership with 25 corporates and startups, we provide a host of resources such as cloud credits. It could be free subscription of Zoho for a year, or similarly, and so forth. Then Idea Bank, for people who are willing to do a startup, who are looking to do a startup but don't have an idea of their own, we have established something called as an Idea Bank on our website, where startups can go, or willing entrepreneurs, people who are potential entrepreneurs, as we call them, can go and check what are the various problem statements that exist out there, and they can commercially convert them into a startup. Then through our platform, we actively try to provide mentorship. People can connect with mentors. For budding entrepreneurs whose companies are less than 2 years old, we also have a seed fund. I'll talk about that in detail in our funding slide as well. And then through our platform, we have aggregated close to 180 government schemes. This is combined of all the governments, all the ministries which are prevalent at Government of India level, the schemes offered there by them. And also we have listed all the relevant schemes for MSMEs and startups, which are there by state governments. So if there's a government scheme section on a website, you can go there, you can select your sector, you can select your state and your stage, and all the relevant and applicable government schemes are available to you, the right point of contact, whom to contact, how to apply. All that information has been simplified and put on a single web page. Then similarly, for the validation stage, we have tax exemptions, easier compliances, like if you're recognized with Startup India, then you don't have to, you can self-certify for 6 labor laws and 3 environmental laws. And there will be no inspection that will be taken place until unless a written complaint is received against you. Similarly, we have received, we have launched schemes for IPR support, so intellectual property right support, where we have facilitators who help you register your patent, trademark. Similarly, for startups, there's an 80% rebate on the patent registration, 50% rebate on the trademark registration, various other ministerial programs and tools and templates. Then for the early traction stage, we have market access programs where we connect with international stakeholders and similar organization and international level, for example, Startup Portugal or Kotara in Korea or Jetro in Japan, and create these cross-border exchange programs where startups from our country get a chance to visit international market and explore collaboration opportunities or potential market opportunities. We also partner with corporates from time to time. In the past 5 years, we have partnered with over 95 plus corporates to provide pilot opportunities, funding opportunities, and grants which are available from the corporate side. Basically, in this case, corporate have a problem statement and they're looking for innovative problem solutions for the same. Then we have launched Fund of Fund international programs, similarly same as the market access. And one of the biggest benefit which we offer to early traction companies is the procurement benefit. So if you're recognized with Startup India, in most applicable central PSU and central ministries tenders, you don't have to comply with the prior experience and the prior turnover criteria. The startup gets relaxation on that. At the same time, you don't have to submit an earnest money deposit. And then for scaling stage, which is the most late stage, we have cross-border exchange program, faster exit if the startup for any reason doesn't work out, exposure visit where we take startups to various international startup festivals, and we have a special Startup India showcase on our website where startups which are approved by the committee, by the evaluation committee, can showcase their product and services. Now, this is the definition, how we define as a startup. It has obviously evolved over the years. So latest that our definition was notified on 19 February 2019. So any company that is registered as a private limited liability partnership or registered partnership is eligible to get recognized with Startup India and avail all the incentives that I just mentioned in my previous slide. It should not be like more older than 10 years, like their startup is considered startup in India only from 10 years from the date of incorporation. They should not have exceeded 100 crore in turnover in any fiscal year. And they should be working on something related to innovation, scalability, job creation, and wealth creation. So the recognition process is completely online. it's paperless process. It's a simple online form. We have backend integration with all the tax department, MCA, so you will not be required to fill your, information again. The form just has 5 additional questions on top of your entity details. Entity details we automatically fetch from MCA, so it doesn't take more than 15-20 minutes to fill this online application form for Startup India recognition. And within 24 to 48 hours, you get recognized or you receive comments that how you can complete your application. We never reject any application for startup recognition. We always mark it incomplete and always are willing to provide feedback so that what you can do to improve your application and so on and so forth can work with you on your idea as well. And at the end, our recognition certificate is completely online, and we are happy to share that we are the first government department throughout India to provide a blockchain verifiable Startup India recognition certificate. Key benefits, just I talked like before, is the public procurement bit. Patent, there is a faster patent application process for startups recognized with us. Tax benefits, which I'll cover in detail in my following slide, and compliance regime, where we try to simplify the process of labor laws, environmental laws, and during the course of past 5 years have also made 46 different amendments and come up with new laws to simplify the journey of a startup. Next is this enabling ease of doing business. So as we were mentioning, the regulatory support that is available from Government of India. So 49 rules, regulations have been relaxed at the central government level, and 610, which is the collated number for across 31 states that currently have 31 states and UTs that currently have a startup policy, have been relaxed. Most important being the angel tax exemption we offer now. So if you are a recognized startup with Startup India and you raise investment above the fair market value, you can self-certify, fill a open declaration form on our website, and you can avail this exemption. Similarly, FVCIs to put up 100% capital through automatic route. Now, provident funds are allowed to invest, their 5% surplus category in category 1 and category 2 IFs, which has opened a whole lot of new options for startup to get funded. Similarly, how I was talking about API integration, now the Startup India recognition process only takes 15 to 20 minutes to get filled. We have backend integration with MCA, with the tax department, with various other agencies, so that all you're required to do is enter your incorporation number or your GST registration number, and you don't have to fill our portal, all the information again on our portal. Also, now what we have done for ease of doing business for startups is that we have integrated with all the state portals. If you're recognized as a startup with Startup India, you're automatically now eligible for benefits from a lot of host states such as Uttarakhand, Andaman and Nicobar Islands, Telangana, Kerala, Maharashtra. All these states accept Startup India recognition and treat them at par with their state recognition. So using the same login credential which you have for the Startup India website, you can log into all the state websites as well. So, and this is the Startup India website, the Startup India Hub, as we like to call it, which is the world's largest online virtual incubation platform. It has currently 5 lakh plus registered users. We have almost 250,000 plus average monthly views, with 4 minutes being spent by each one of them. One interesting feature I would like to tell you about this website, it is pretty much a networking platform as well. That's why there is a figure of 25,000 plus connects. Here, startups can register at various stages, as we showed. At the same time, we request or recommend a lot of enablers to register as well. So if you go over here, you will find a lot of mentors, investors, accelerators, and incubators are registered on Startup India website, and you can send them a connect request for seeking mentorship, or if it's an investor, if you're interested in raising investment. And it has a small chat feature after getting connected to the mentor or the enabler, as we like to call it. You can take the conversation offline, or you can continue with a chat feature. So monthly, we are facilitating 25,000 such connects on our platform. The resource partner services are driven through our platform. The learning and development programs are mentioned earlier, are hosted over there. One thing is tools and templates. We realized, like in the start in 2016, a lot of what these entrepreneurs, when they take off, a startup to establish in first 6 months require a lot of help, such as NDA for getting into contracts, for hiring employees, you require employee contracts. And these are very expensive contracts, which can be easily templatized, but each and every startup was paying a different lawyer for it. So we got these tools and templates together, and we have listed on our platform. Now you can go and download a template of an employee contract or an NDA, or all these host services which are available on our platform for free. Then we run the marquee programs with various corporates such as WhatsApp, Western Digital, where we host corporate innovation challenges on our platform. All our schemes and policies are also listed on this platform, and various other central government and state government schemes are also listed. Then from time to time, startup requires a lot of reports and publications they can refer to for creating their pitch deck and making their pitch deck more quantitative based. So for all those hosts, we also host and aggregate all these relevant publications and reports also online on a platform. And at the end, you also find a suggestion box where you can give suggestions for any publication or report you're looking for, and we'll try to attain it at the end of on the behalf of the startup, and will be happy to host that for free on our platform. Next pillar is access to funding. So the Fund of Fund, which DPIIT has launched, one of the main aspects when the Startup India Action Plan was launched back in 2016 was to provide more funding for startups. It was still a very risky asset class. It was back then also considered a very risky asset class, and still is a very risky asset class. And a lot of private funding is not available for these startups. To ease the risk borne by investors, DPIIT has launched a Fund of Fund, where SIDBI was made the fund manager, Small Industry Development Bank of India, and they were given the mandate to run this fund, where SIDBI invested in turns in these AIFs. The idea was simple, that 30% of the money of any alternate investment fund would be funded by the government, and 70% the fund has to raise the rest of the money, the 70% from LPs. So we are happy to share till date, the commitments worth of 6,600 crore have already made into 72 VCs, and 480 startups have been funded of it. And the total fund, that is almost 6 times, which have been catalyzed, or 7 times have been catalyzed for startups, is now available in the market in excess of 36,000 crore. To apply for it, the procedure is simple. You can go to SIDBI's website or our website. All the 72 AIFs which have received, or VCs which have received funding from us, are listed over there. Their application mechanism, they're looking for a pitch deck, their pitch deck guidelines, the email IDs and the contact details of our relevant stakeholders are listed on our platform. And you can just go to the funding tab and start applying for it as per your sector and stage which they're interested in. Second part is the seed fund scheme. So Fund of Fund is the more for matured startups which already have some traction. For the early stage startup, this year in January, when we completed our 5 years, which was 16 January, the Honorable Prime Minister, from an event which was called Prarambh, launched our seed fund as well. Now, a seed fund is a very new scheme which has been launched for startups, where we have made incubators as fund managers, and will be giving money to almost 300 incubators over the course of next 5 years. And the expectation would be from them to almost invest in 120 startups each. A startup can simply go to our website. It has a seed fund tab, and from the seed fund tab, you can choose any 3 incubators and apply for the seed fund scheme. There is 20 lakh upper limit on the seed fund which can be availed, is a 20 lakh grant and 50 lakh debt or a convertible debenture. The process is again completely online. You have to be DPIIT recognized startup. You go to the seed fund website, you apply, you choose 3 incubators, and one of the 3 incubators has to approve, or so to say, validate your application for funding. If for, let's say, some reason, all 3 incubator rejects your application, there is a 45-day cool down period, post which you can apply to 3 new incubators. These are the 2 active funding schemes which are available from Startup India, and the third, which is in works, is the credit guarantee scheme. We are still working on, where we'll be looking to provide credit guarantee to the loans that are raised by startups. But since the scheme is still yet to be operationalized and still in work, so details of the same are awaited. Then next bit is the market access support, which is available from government to startups. First is the government engagement, the public procurement benefit. So yes, all the startups can, after getting recognized from us, can get the benefit of relaxation of prior experience, prior turnover, and waiver of earnest money deposit. All the CPSUs and the central ministry departments are expected to offer automatically. But at the same time, government has also come out with a government e-marketplace where it has mandated all the government departments to procure the stuff from, or all the items from. And now startups have a special mention on the government e-marketplace, which is called the Startup Runway. A DPIIT recognized startup can automatically get recognized or registered on the government e-marketplace as a startup. It's a very simple process. While registering on the government e-marketplace as a vendor, you just have to verify that you're a startup through an OTP-based mechanism. And it's just a checkbox. It can be done as part of the normal registration. And we are happy to share that almost 11,000 startups are now registered on the government e-marketplace, and they have got in excess of 88,000 orders with a total value of above 4,000 crore rupees. We also run from time to time Government Connect and Partner Ministry program, where this is done on the inbound model, where if a ministry or a government department approaches us that they are looking for a particular innovation, then we do a innovation hunt, or let's say a hackathon or a grand challenge on behalf of that department. We have done 11 plus, 10, 21 plus so far. One example which I can cite is that Ministry of Defense was looking for some battery powered, or a power bank plus baggage or bags which could have power banks inside them, and for the forward areas, and we did this challenge for them, and now they are sourcing it successfully through one of the startups. Similarly, we do corporate and domestic engagement. As I shared, we have done 100 plus corporate partnership, where various opportunities such as pilot orders, crash grants, incubation, mentorship, and prototyping is available to startups through corporates. And then the other part of market access for mature startups is cross-border exchange programs and mobilizing capital from international investors for Indian startups. So recently we concluded our Japan pitching session, where all the national startup awardees, finalists of our first national startup award, got a chance to pitch to Japanese investors with the help of JETRO, which is a similar organization working for the field of startups in Japan. Similarly, we have ran challenges with Netherlands, Sweden, and United States. Currently, we are in the process of engaging with Dubai for Dubai Expo, and if some opportunity showcase opportunities available from Startup India for Dubai Expo, it will be available on our website in coming days. I think this is the final part of my presentation, and so now, alongside providing a lot of incentives, funding opportunities, incubation opportunities, corporate innovation programs, running corporate innovation programs with the help of corporate, we also decided to start National Startup Awards and award best of the startups, and in the 36 sectors which we have selected. The idea is simple, that we invite applications for startups which already have some traction, have a proven concept. These are not ideation-based startups. These are a lot of mature startups which may be working across various sectors, and we give them, we recognize their effort, and we give them a National Startup Award. At the same time, run a fairly 18 to 25 week exclusive hand-holding series for the National Startup Award finalists. Now, this is the details of our first National Startup Award. There were 36 winners, that is 34 sectors and 2 special categories, one for women entrepreneurs and one for tier 2, tier 3 based startups. There were a total of 192 finalists across 35 categories. So since these were mature startups, you can see that average annual revenue of these startups were 3.5 CR, total number of employees is 3,600 plus. They have raised close to 400 plus crore funding, and almost half of them are reporting that they are profitable. So once a startup is awarded the National Startup Award, then we run an exclusive series for them on 9. Yes, this is the 9th track, on 9 tracks, where we handhold them, provide them showcase opportunity, provide them investor connect through our investor series, provide them mentorship through Sequoia, partners such as Indian Angel Network, FICCI and NASSCOM. Then also work with various corporates and government departments to provide them connects if they're looking for. If some of the startups are looking for international market access, we work with our missions over there so that they could be provided a soft landing facility, and some introductions could be made if they're looking for help in establishing or expanding their business to such countries where they're interested in. Then we regularly conduct regulatory roundtables with these startups to make sure to give them a platform to address and highlight and address their regulatory queries. At the same time, if some could be taken up at the ministry level, and we are happy to share that 7 such reforms have been passed in 2020 were the result of the regulatory roundtable held with national startup awardees and finalists. Then special workshops are held with the NSA finalists to give them knowledge about the Startup India benefit and what are the exact benefits that are applicable to them, and how they can apply for it and avail them. And the final is the Startup India Doordarshan show. Now, Startup India also runs its own Doordarshan show, which was a 12-part series, which used to come on Doordarshan on every Friday and Saturday night. And we selected the startups from the National Startup Awardees, who were all the finalists and the winners, and they were invited, and the sector-based episodes were there. And the idea was to provide opportunities for showcase and, for publicizing basically these startups, that these are the award winners, at the same time to showcase what interesting work which is happening in India. Thank you, and that will be all from my side.
But in the interest of time, what we are going to do is that we would collect these questions and we would share with you and the office so that we can take these questions and share insights, because we have many more days. We'll be able to definitely answer some of the questions. Hope that's okay.
Yes, Ravi, that totally works. What I'll do is actually one of our last slides is actually supposed to have our contact us information. Due to paucity of time, I could just rush up and combine these at the moment. In the chat, I'll post our team email ID before leaving for everyone to refer to, if you can allow me the rights. And all those people who have questions can reach out to us directly on this email ID, and we'll respond within 24 to 48 hours.
That would be really wonderful.
I'll do that. Thank you so much, Ravi, for inviting us. And really sorry once again that Astin Palak, due to an urgent meeting, could not make it. But I hope this session was informative and applicable to a lot of your database. And the people who are attending, they found it interesting. Please do reach out to us. If I rush through a lot of slides, you can understand it was a short session. But would be happy to come back and take any questions if there are any. Thank you, ICC, for inviting us once again.
Salil, Mr. Seth, this was an equally exciting session, and I would not say there was even a single doubt about the efficacy of the session. Thank you so much for taking our time on behalf of Indian Chamber of Commerce. Thank you so much to join the session today. We move on to the next session, the continuation of the session, Government Support to Startups and Incubators View. And to do this, we would like to invite Dr. Subhranshu Sanyal, CEO of IIM Kolkata Incubation Center, a startup evangelist and an experienced management professional with a focus on entrepreneurship and innovation. Mr. Sanyal, as the Chief Executive Officer of a renowned business incubator, actively engaged with the key stakeholders in the entrepreneurship domain, which includes government, academia, corporate, and investors. He's also involved in creating a strong enabling ecosystem for the startups with a special emphasis on East and Northeast India. We are very glad to have Mr. Sanyal with us today. Thank you so much for joining us. Request you to please take it ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Ravi. Am I audible and visible?
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you, and thanks ICC for
inviting me and allowing me to share my thoughts. May I share my screen?
Yes, you may go ahead and share.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, just a second. Just first share my screen. Is it visible now? The screen?
Yes, perfectly.
Okay, thank you. So let me just first talk about a little bit about our incubator, the IIM Calcutta Innovation Park. So we are based out of IIM Calcutta. That's our, you can call head office or main center. We are just 7 years old in terms of our organization. We're a not-for-profit company. We work with various state governments. So we have another 4 centers in Northeast. So Guwahati, Shillong and Tuda in Meghalaya, and Itanagar. So where our team is helping the various state government to work on the entrepreneurship development program. And this is a snapshot of the centers or our offices, various locations. So typically what we do, we help the startups with various kind of support that primarily is mentorship, the knowledge support, then various kind of connects like market connect, funding connect, and being a partner to the various the central government as well as the state government. We also support the startups with seed funding and facilitating various several government schemes. So that's what IIM Calcutta Innovation Park is. And to work effectively, we need to partner, or we effectively collaborate with various stakeholders in the ecosystem. Now coming to the topic, when we are talking about supporting startup, it's good that we had Salil just in before me. So he set the context very well and shared the bigger vision. And I would like to start with that only, that the overall objective is that we are looking at creating a nation of job creators, right? That is the objective with which the Startup India initiative started. Now, to enable that, there are 2 big problems that needs to be solved. First problem is, who wants to be the entrepreneur, right? How do you promote entrepreneurship? And then once you get people interested in entrepreneurship or trying out ideas, how do you support the entrepreneurs? These are the 2 problems that needs to be solved. Now, Startup India and Invest India team has definitely created that kind of ecosystem, the enablers and all. But when we talk about implementation at the ground level, then we need to look at what's happening on ground at the state level, right? So each state has its different way of functioning. But again, thanks to the Startup India initiative, every state has a policy to support the startups. But again, the 2 big challenges more or less remains as per our experience. We work with actively, we're working with 5 state governments, that who wants to be the entrepreneur and how to support the entrepreneurs. And this is where probably the incubators come in. If you look at the statistics over the last 2 decades, I was looking at a report, it says that the number of incubators have grown 15 times. And as of now, I think official and unofficial figures are like more than 500 incubators, but as per one report, there are 326 verified incubators in India. So the ecosystem has grown, and I would like to share my thoughts on how incubators can come and support implementation of the government policies. Because policy is the main challenge is that how do you effectively implement it, okay? So we look at this entire ecosystem into these 4 different categories, starting from the bottom, which is awareness. So creating awareness amongst the youth and motivating them to become job creators, job givers, okay? And that category we call it immersion, where things like hackathons and various kind of seminars, workshops, a series of those activities are done. Now, a subset of that, those participants would finally be motivated and they would like to come up with ideas and want to take it forward. That's the next stage, that how do you take your idea and build a prototype? So we call it a pre-incubation stage. So typically, the handholding that you need to do is to validate the idea, to effectively or to develop the prototype, or in our language we call it the minimum viable product concept that is, we need to develop. So this is where we call the pre-incubation process comes in. Now the startups which have developed a concept and somewhat a lab prototype, now how to take them to a revenue stage, how to convert that to a successful business model. So this prototype to revenue generation, we call it incubation. So the typical support that you need here would be mentoring, dedicated mentoring, market access, funding connect, all those support would be required. And parallelly, the government also comes up with the various incentives and ease of doing business, all those efforts support that. The startups which successfully implement and start generating revenue, then for them the next level is the growth stage and scale up stage, for which there is acceleration, which is a short-term initiative to, it's like a booster dose for the startups, which takes them to the next orbit. So all this, if you look at the spectrum, the incubators can play a significant role in implementation of the government policies across this spectrum. Now, how government chips in here, and this, you can say it's copied from what Salil has mentioned, that the government comes in with simplification of the rules and handholding of the entrepreneurs who wants to start business, is like ease of doing business, so that the various licenses, the regulations and all are taken care, like a single window support. Then comes the various funding support and incentives. Now the funding, again, if you refer to the previous diagram, each stage probably would require funding. So if I again refer to that spectrum, the awareness level, it's some reward and recognition. The idea to prototype level, typically we call it fellowships or entrepreneur in residence kind of support. Prototype to revenue needs that seed fund, which is very important, and there's a big gap there. And then acceleration, we're talking about the proper venture capitalists or the PE kind of funding. So this is where the government comes in terms of the fellowship, the initial research development grant, and the seed funding. And the recently launched Startup India Seed Fund is another example. And we are one of the implementation partners of that fund. Industry academia collaboration. So I guess the objective of this entire initiative is this industry academia collaboration. I would like to congratulate ICC for organizing such a well-designed program and giving a platform to the startups. And I believe this is the objective of the Startup India as well. Lastly, now when we talk about government support, government provides support to various agencies, to various organizations within the government. So then, so I would like to list some of the supporting organizations. Now, Niti Aayog, the Atal Innovation Mission, through that we have various incubation programs. And now the seed fund again, which the Startup India launched, all are coming under that umbrella. Now NSTEDB under DST, this department is supporting incubation for quite some time. I think it's over around 2 decades now, it's there. We are also supported by NSTEDB. So NSTEDB provides various funding options for startups, whether you are at the fellowship stage or seed funding stage, or even acceleration stage. So various kind of programs are there. Then departments like Ministry of IT, the Department of Biotechnology, the MSME, STPI, all these departments have their own incubation program through which they provide handholding support across the spectrum. that I have mentioned. And finally, every state government, or I think most of the states now have a specific startup policy through which there are additional supports provided to the startup. So that's all I wanted to cover today. And my final, my message to the startups would be that, this is a wonderful time we are living now. If you want to start entrepreneurship, there are enough challenges to be solved, so you can have enough ideas. And if you have a good idea and which is innovative, you have enough support available for you. So what's stopping you? Go ahead and make it big. Thank you. If any questions, I would be happy to. Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Sanyal. We can take one question before we start the next session. If you can talk about, the kind of support. I mean, you already mentioned the support provided for startups who are based out of East and Northeast India. If you can share a little more insights, if a startup is planning to join and take advantage of the IIM Calcutta Incubation Program, how can they get in touch?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, so all the schemes that I listed, so we are partners to most of the schemes, okay? And from time to time, depending on the mandate of that scheme, we keep on floating applications, call for applications. Again, I told you, it covers all the spectrum, starting from fellowship, grant, and seed funding. So all you need to do is just apply, and definitely your application will be, taken up.
Some of the startups are requesting for an email ID. If there's any email ID you would like to share in the chat box, that'll be really helpful, Dr. Sanyal.
Yeah, I'll do that. So yeah.
Great, wonderful. With that, we would like to take this opportunity on behalf of Indian Chamber of Commerce to thank Dr. Subhranshu Sanyal, CEO IIM Calcutta Incubation Center, for his sharing his insights on an incubator's view in regards to government support to startup. Thank you so much for joining the session today. It was really a delightful session.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. We now move on to the next session, which is a very interesting topic: future of Indian fintech sector in the global startup economy. And to share deep expertise, we have with us Ms. Sirisha Waraganti. She is the Managing Director of JP Morgan Chase. Ms. Sirisha leads architecture, data and digital technology for consumer and community banking, CCB, at JP Morgan Chase. She's based out of India at the moment. She brings 29 plus years of global executive experience spanning across research labs, product engineering, strategy, mergers and acquisitions, business development, and consulting across public and private sectors. Most recently, she was the Executive Vice President and Chief Technology Officer of Architecture and Shared Services for MasterCard and led MasterCard India. She was the first Group Executive Leader in Technology for MasterCard outside the US. We are truly honored to have Ms. Sirisha joining us today. Thank you so much for taking our time. Request you to please take the session ahead. Over to you.
Thanks so much, for the very kind words. The topic that I have this afternoon is the future of Indian fintech sector in the global startup economy. And like Dr. Sanyal has just mentioned, the time has never been better before. The many, many reasons for that, right? The way I'm going to split my conversation today is into three parts. Part one, I'll really talk about the opportunity in the financial sector and why fintechs and where fintechs actually play a role. And second, talk about the opportunities for the fintechs themselves, and then get into talking a little about India and the Indian fintech ecosystem, and finally end off with the big opportunities that there are in this sector and segment for the fintechs, and why banks like ourselves are constantly looking at the fintech to drive cutting edge innovation and bring in niche services. So with that, I mean, just a landscape of the financial services sector globally, right? This sector drives close to a fifth or more of the global GDP. And that's huge, just to show you the might of the segment. Close to $5+ trillion get traded on a daily basis in currency. In addition to that, we're talking about millions of jobs that the sector actually entails, again, globally. Now, when we talk about the opportunity, what are the segments that we are talking about? It is the investment banking that all of us are aware of, whether it is management of payroll, it is private equity, VC funding, asset management, cross-border payments, multiple that we have in that particular segment. There still is a huge opportunity, though we have global banks, we have governmental policies, etc. There is still a very, very huge opportunity that there is in this segment, primarily because of the challenges that have been driven socially and economically across many countries across the globe. And even in the US, I mean, it's still a very cash-heavy economy, and there is still a huge opportunity from a digital transformation standpoint. The opportunity that there is for all of us to look at globally is close to $2+ billion, 2+ billion people that are in the unbanked and the underbanked segment. If we look at the household debt, that's close to about $61 trillion, right? And in terms of the working age adults without retirement assets, that's close to $100+ million. In addition to that, I mean, in the latest, whether it is COVID-driven or before, we've seen a lot of increase around fraud. And there is an opportunity of $22.8 billion in annual card fraud losses that we're seeing. And it's just not these opportunities, right? There are also opportunities around tech that we see big time. There is up to 25% of a number of the banking functions today need to be automated. So that's big room for opportunity as far as the fintechs are concerned. In addition to that, there is a constant growth that we see about the push for opening international bank accounts driven by globalization. Tracking international regulatory changes, that's another big one with many countries in play and so many changes across each of these demographics. Managing domestic and cross-border payments, again, is huge considering, the global travel as well as investments that are happening across the globe. Billing collections continues to be an opportunity of growth. In addition to all of this, right, we've also seen this trend of companies that are global coming in local, as well as companies that are local going global. Now, one of the classic examples that we have seen and why this becomes important is understanding local culture and consumer behavior is becoming more and more important, as well as creating local business network to bring in additional sales. One of the recent examples that you and me, are well aware of in this particular market is the Walmart acquisition of Flipkart. While we've seen Amazon having to grow everything organically, Walmart's acquisition proved the fact that, there was this company in India. If they wanted to make a huge footprint into India, this acquisition made a lot of sense. So you'll see more and more of that because there is so much global consolidation that is happening across the big tech. And I'll talk about that a little later, as well as a lot of consolidation that we're seeing locally with top players in this market as well, whether it's the Reliance and the Tatas, and a number of players that we have. So with that, for stage setting, let me talk a little about fintech. And what is fintech? All of you, of course, aware of it, but I'd like to start my session with a definition of what fintech, according to me, is. Fintech, in short, is really financial technology, and it is primarily the innovative use of technology in the design and delivery of financial services. And it is primarily, and why is it as important, and why are we speaking about it today? If we look at the global market for fintech, that's huge. We're talking about $28+ trillion of opportunity that there is in the market. And that's the reason you see so many players interested in it, and not just, at innovation at the edge, but there's also a lot of consolidation. And that's why many of the big tech, as well as large players like ourselves, the big banks and many others, are interested in this space. And how have we seen the growth of this segment, right? Though 2021 has actually seen a slight dip in the investments of fintech, maybe because of COVID, but the number of deals have actually increased 52%. That is to show that there is a lot of interest and the segment is booming at this point in time. And it truly is, because it's and it is not just products, it's not just technologies, it's also about business models and in the way financial services are delivered. So there's so much to fintech, as well as some, and I'll call out some of the technologies in a bit. So fintech really is revolutionizing, as I said, the banking industry and really giving millions of people access to financial services for the first time. And we're seeing that in our country, with many of the initiatives that the government has taken. And I'll speak a bit about that as well. The new banking models that are emerging with the fintech and startups. And some of the areas of key interest to these fintechs are primarily around AI, ML. It could peer-to-peer lending. And I'm talking primarily from a financial services sector standpoint. Big data continues to be of interest, with a lot of consolidation, additional data, many more players coming into the market, crowdfunding, digital payments, huge, robo-advisors, to just name a few. And what are we looking at? Faster, quicker, better, safer payments, right? And every time we've had a crisis, and in this case, the global pandemic that we've seen, many of the big institutions like ourselves are having to look at, there's been an increased fraud and risk, as you know, it's gone up 600 times or 600 percentage points in the recent months. And that calls for a lot that we have to do around that. And so innovation is probably not topmost on our mind. And that's where we see the fintechs playing a big part. Right. And so we've seen, and for the past couple of years, we've seen many companies like, say, Airbnb, Uber, WhatsApp, WeChat, and many more making inroads into some of the, nuances that they bring to the table as far as better services for customers are concerned. And the millennial customer, and we've seen, right, a 20-odd% increase in the customer base, primarily because of the millennials. And these people are truly looking for easier experiences that can be provided. So if they are on Facebook or on Amazon for a large part of their time, or on WeChat, they would look for creation of these super apps where they can do, they can probably look at investments, they can do book doctor's appointments, order a taxi, pretty much do everything within the remit of the application itself. And that's also pushing, the fintech culture across. And if I look at the room that all of us are in just now, I'm sure each one of us, at least at any given point in time in the day, uses at least two services that are being provided by fintechs, whether it is for transfer of money or financial planning, borrowing, insurance, what have you. And what are the biggest markets that we see and opportunities that we see are India and China, really leading the way in terms of having more than half of the world's customer base. So that's why, the Indian fintech becomes extremely, extremely important, considering, the changes that are happening globally. Right, as well as just the consumer base that we have. Now, there are other things that are happening too, which are pushing, pushing us towards increased dependency around the fintechs, as well as the opportunity for the fintechs. Right, we've seen the device itself, a huge amount of movement with respect to innovation on the device, networks providing more and more bandwidth, 3G to 4G to 5G today, in terms of just the data that's available there. And that's creating more and more opportunities for the fintech. So the physical and the digital worlds actually converging is actually helping us push or move away from a world beyond cash, as well as a world beyond plastic. And what I see is that every connected device is becoming a device for commerce. And that's where we have the whole connected commerce thing, playing an extremely big part, whether it is your refrigerator, your smart TV, or your gaming systems, or what have you, your connected car. Each of these is actually becoming a device to make and receive payments, right? And it is pushing connected commerce in a big way, and that's what's leading to additional innovation that we actually see in this segment. And any device, like if we use it once with these newer applications, we tend to want to use it more and more and never get off it, right? Whether it is tap and pay, we've seen that with tap and pay, and now we see that with the FASTag, right? So I'm just talking about getting used to a newer feature and an easier experience, and how you get hooked onto it. So you would like to use FASTag more and more because it reduces the traffic jams at every one of those toll booths. And so for consumers too, when these fintechs are providing newer experiences, they're getting hooked onto it and want more and more of these services. So that's the reason it's an opportunity for the entire ecosystem to tap into and work together to be able to monetize these particular services. In addition to this, on the tech side, and I mentioned this earlier on, so it's not the at the edge services alone, but from a tech side too, there are huge opportunities. When we talk about faster, quicker, better, cheaper, and so on, there's much that's happening on the back-end technology, whether it is architecture, whether it is management of data, whether it is management of infrastructure, and so on and so forth. So multiple things are happening there too, right? Infrastructure on demand with all the move to cloud and things like that, where all of us are not able to manage these very expensive, infrastructure that we are sitting on. The same with, looking at solutions around architecture on code. Architecture is code. Data and many things around data management. It could be for better archival of data, better ingestion of data, things like data mesh for really unlocking the analytical data at scale, or whether it is data on edge, which is primarily looking at edge computing, where you are trying to bring computation and the data storage closer to devices. All these are huge opportunities, that the fintech segments have. And closer home, right? Many of the government policies, which I think Dr. Sanyal just covered before me, are opening up more inroads for the fintech. So if it is things like, say, basically solving for identity, for instance, in the form of Aadhaar, which has actually reduced middlemen in the whole payment process. Or if we're talking about getting everyone a bank account or equivalent to store money. Thirdly, really looking at a scalable platform to move money like UPI or IMPS and so on. And well, we're aware of how UPI has actually revolutionized payments for the masses and has created actually, I think, a slew of opportunities for fintechs in this part of the world. And finally, allowing banks and fintechs and wealth or insurance or lending players to access platforms like UPI and DigiLocker to innovate. So this framework in India, I believe, has actually led to the revolution and the boom of fintech in this part of the world. This, in addition to the recent sandbox environment that RBI has opened up, I think is only a creation of a larger opportunity here. Now, why is, again, India as attractive as it is? I talked about the global fintech market and the value that is there. In India, too, this market has a huge opportunity. We're talking about close to $150 to $160 billion of opportunity for the fintech by 2025. And, these are primarily, and the top areas that I believe that there would be are payments is continue to lead the way, lending, and payments has increased substantially, as you've seen. I mean, with COVID, I think it's only accentuated digital payments and the entire digital transformation there. But I believe it's going to continue to grow till 2025 and beyond as well. Lending, wealth tech is also going to be big as far as one of the key areas and drivers for Indian fintech is concerned. Data privacy is going to increase, with the sort of channels that we now have open, with the movement to the cloud. I think there are going to be more and more rules and regulations that we will see, and with many of these players like Facebook, etc., coming into the remit of wanting wanting to acquire spaces, there's going to be more and more around data privacy that there will be. And there is also a lot of aggregation that I spoke about, right? So the account aggregation frameworks, et cetera, there's going to be much innovation in each of those areas. And we'll also see increased regulatory, push that the government will actually. So as the markets open up, as the opportunities increase, there's going to be a lot more regulation that will come in as well, whether it is in the areas of insurance, equity trading, pension funds, and just to name a few. So that's going to increase substantially. Some of the recent trends that have happened as far as Indian startups are concerned, which I think is very, very exciting for many of you sitting in the room today, is many of our startups or, startups that were have gone global. So I've seen, guys like Ola, Oyo, Paytm, Zomato, just to name a few, have gone global with looking for other countries and avenues where they can either invest in or extend their services to. So that, I think, is basically a huge opportunity that the fintechs have at this point in time, and that's the reason I believe the sector is as interesting as it is. Now, to continue on that vector and tell you about where we are as a firm and what we are looking at as well is, if you look at JP Morgan too, I mean, we have close to about 9 acquisitions that we've made, and some of them are in the very recent past, and some of them are still consolidating as we speak. And these primarily into payments, the investment tech, healthcare. So you see banks like ourselves too, getting into segments like healthcare and so on. About 9 acquisitions, close to 230 plus investments that the bank has made in various segments. Now that said, and I'll before I end, I do want to talk about all the opportunities that there are for fintechs. I've named some spaces. But what do I see as trends which are going to grow to 2025? Transactions will continue to be touchless. So any areas of innovation there, would be very, very exciting for companies like ourselves. Finance will actually double down on, say, business insights, personalization, more and more of that happening, and everything in real time. So, whether it's real-time payments, reporting, so on and so forth, I think those are going to become big. So, better authentication techniques, et cetera, that you have will be super helpful. Self-service is going to continue to be the norm. There are, of course, newer operating models for merchants, for consumers. We also see a huge boom in data that I talked about, right? So in terms of data standardization, proliferation, better archival methods, et cetera, going to continue to be top of mind for many. So I see these as being the big trends. And to answer the question that we started off with, the future of the Indian fintech sector in the global startup economy, all I have to say is it has never been better. And I believe there's an extremely good future for our companies as we get into newer and newer segments. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Voroganti. I think that was a really amazing session. In fact, you touched upon some of the very crucial aspects which we are also scheduled to cover tomorrow. Tomorrow, the day is all about fintech, where we are talking about banking and insurance. SEBI is talking about the sandbox, which you just mentioned. We also have a session from on ideation to IPO. But your session was truly insightful. Thank you so much on behalf of Indian Chamber of Commerce to join this session.
Thank you. Thank you.
Pleasure. We move on to the next power-packed, truly global session on startups. We have with us experts joining from across the world, multiple time zones, and I'm sure all the startups are very excited for this session. Let me take this opportunity to introduce all the speakers and the moderator for the event. I would like to start with Mr. William Bao Bean, the general partner at SOSV. Mr. Bean is a general partner at SOSV. SOSV is the third most active venture capital investor in the world, number 7 in India, number 6 in Singapore, and number 8 in Southeast Asia, with over $990 million under management. He's the managing director of China Accelerator, the first accelerator to launch in Asia, and the only program in Asia to have a unicorn. He's also founder and managing director of Mox, a mobile internet platform with 93 million monthly active smartphone users in the ecosystem, providing invested companies with free advertising. Thank you so much, Mr. William Bao Bean, to join this session.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks a lot, William. We have with us Dr. Apuru Ranjan Sharma, co-founder and president, Venture Catalyst and 9Unicorn. Dr. Sharma leads the India's first integrated incubator. Venture Catalyst has been ranked the world's third largest incubator and early stage investor by TechCrunch in 2019, and now #1 early stage player in India in the last 3 years. He's also a board member at TiE Mumbai and works very closely with DPIIT. Thank you so much, Dr. Sharma, for joining the session today.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. We have with us Ms. Ananya Chandra, Managing Partner, InnoPact VC, Singapore. As Managing Partner at InnoPact VC, Ms. Ananya Chandra deploy venture capital in high-impact innovation across India and other emerging markets across the world. She keenly tracks technologies, creating a step change for people's financial, healthcare, and consumer internet needs. She also runs Women Prosperity Lab, an enabler for technologies for women under the name Women Tech. Thanks a lot, Ms. Chandra, for joining this session.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We have with us Mr. Simon Galpin. He is the former MD Bahrain Economic Development Board. Mr. Simon Galpin is the global expert in economic development with a record of leading world-class investment promotion agencies to deliver thousands of investment projects across and attract billions of dollars of direct investment. From Scotland to Hong Kong and now in Bahrain, passionate about promoting startups and entrepreneurship with extensive experience as a non-executive director, mentor, coach, and public speaker. Thanks a lot, Mr. Galpin, to join this session today.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much. We have with us Mr. Ashok Panjikaran. Mr. Panjikaran is the head of incubation at Kerala Startup Mission. He has expertise in building a strong technology startup ecosystem with a demonstrated history of working in the government and corporate relations industry. He's skilled in project development, implementation, management, community management, startup stakeholder engagement, and social services. Thanks a lot, Mr. Panjikaran, to join the session today.
Thank you. Thank you, Ravi.
Wonderful. And to drive this power-packed session, we do require a powerful speaker. And we are very glad to have with us co-chairman of ICC Next, Mr. Abhishek Rungta. Abhishek is founder and CEO of INT, one of the most respected digital engineering company for BFSI and life sciences sector for over 25 years now. He's also an active investor in tech startups for over 10 years with over 100 investments. He's currently partnered at Cedars, an angel fund based out of Kolkata, but investing all across India and globally. Abhishek, thank you so much for joining in. Request you to please take the lead as the session moderator and take the session ahead. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ravi. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, gentlemen and ladies. It's an amazing panel. Really glad to be part of it. And I would like to get the maximum out of all of you over the next 40 minutes. So maybe, just the protocol, I think it's okay for all of us to address each other by first name, and we'll continue to do so. So what I will do is, maybe we'll start with a couple of minutes of thoughts on a couple of topics, and then we will go, and then we will go with the flow, and as the topic evolves, and I will love to have all of you come and contribute on that. So obviously things are evolving very fast. I have seen things changing in last 2-3 years, and this year has been absolutely phenomenal in terms of the number of investments that's going through the different angel funds and VC funds. So I would like to understand from each of you, maybe 2-3 minutes each, is what are the emerging trends that you see in terms of sector and in terms of the business models in which all these investments are getting driven? Because you yourself are making a lot of these decisions and you are at the forefront of this whole thing. So maybe you can take out 2-3 minutes to tell us about the emerging trends that you see in investing. So maybe we can start with Simon, and then we can go from here.
Well, thank you very much. Pleasure to be with you, and greetings from the Kingdom of Bahrain. A couple of the trends that we see have really been fueled by COVID. Out of all the sectors that have been impacted by COVID, I think that fintech, software as a service, e-commerce have all actually done pretty well during the lockdown periods and so on. So we're seeing a lot of growth in some of those sectors. But we're also seeing growth in some economies that are only just beginning to have an active startup ecosystem. So in my region, in the Middle East and North Africa, We're seeing economies like Egypt really starting to take off in a big way. Saudi Arabia is going through a very big economic transformation, and this is opening up tremendous opportunities for both startups and scale-ups. So it's a very exciting time. Despite some of the doom and gloom we've seen from COVID, I think the big light at the end of the tunnel is getting behind the startup ecosystems that we see around the world. Thank you.
Thank you. William, would you like to go next?
Sure. I think there's the two, major trends. We're really focused on investing in India for India, as opposed to India for SaaS for selling to the US. So we've done, I don't know, about, actually kind of lost track, but over the last 3 years, maybe about 70 investments in India, maybe a bit more. And we're looking at local consumer internet market. You had the big three changes, cheaper or almost free mobile internet, and then cheaper handsets, and very easy to use payment. And then you had some, because of political issues, you had some market players exit the market, which really opened things up for local players. So across e-commerce, payment, media. So as the number 2 most active investor in media in the world, we're really doubled down. And then COVID was a big driver because people were stuck at home. So the consumer internet just got very, 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 very popular. Second trend that we're looking at is really digitizing, mom and pop shops and small retailers and restaurants. And there's a real huge backlash against big internet. Google, Facebook, Amazon, Alibaba, Tencent, and their proxies in India are really killing small medium business. Restaurant delivery is just completely gutting the restaurant industry. So we're quite active investing in platforms that help these small business people kind of fight back. And we're seeing some good success there. So thanks.
Thanks, William. Ananya, would you like to go next, please?
Yeah, sure. Firstly, I agree with both trends that William pointed out. At InnoPact, one of the first key trend that we're tracking is women tech, which is the rise in the interest in funding and building technologies for women. So whether this is women's healthcare needs, insurance needs, consumer internet needs. So we've recently invested in a neobank for Indian women called Mahila Money, with the idea that many such technologies that have been built, keeping a universal person in mind, but often that universality is not taking into account women's needs. The second trend, very briefly, that we're very excited about is that India is about 5 to 8 years, depending on the market, ahead of countries in Latin America, certain geographies in Southeast Asia. And while no one's fond of saying we're building X for Y, I think that there's a serious opportunity to see which playbooks have succeeded in India and build that knowledge and take that knowledge elsewhere. So for instance, we're very excited about companies like Dukaan and Bikai that are building e-commerce SaaS solutions in India. And so we've recently funded what we like to say the Dukaan for Latin America, called Preki. And I think we're very excited about the future of trends like these.
Wonderful, great insights. Apurvji.
Yeah, great. First of all, thank you. I think there are two things which I would like to mention here. In India, while you see significant growth coming in fintech, adtech, and health tech, because you see the reverse trending started happening here. Pharmacy acquiring Thyrocare, my own portfolio, BharatPe acquiring PMC. Yeah. We are 197x there. So then we have, this, especially AdTech, Byju's acquiring, companies like Akash, $1 billion, which is a reverse, acquiring traditional companies. And that has started happening. And that is because, but these are our traditional high boom companies, high boom sectors already there. Fintech with 18 unicorns and 30 plus semi-unicorns. this all-time high. But their subsectors started coming to us now, right? A lot of new companies, new concepts coming there as well. I mean, she mentioned Dukaan, which is also again my portfolio company in India. So, the sectors which we are looking at, but there are many, clones and new concepts coming in within these three sectors, which are all-time high sectors. But many new sectors are emerging. Today, my major focus is on agri-tech because I see it will have almost equal growth in the next 5 to 7 years. What you have seen so far in this. So a lot of investment today is going on into agri marketplaces, agri tech, and forget the days, where you say, agri tech platform. No, nothing like that. There are agri tech products coming, real time transactions are happening, and really amazing companies are happening. So agri is going to be big in the future, as big as fintech in India, right? That's where our current focus is. Secondly, of course, G2C products, not the platforms. I'm talking about products. There's an amazing growth there. Almost, I mean, we already have many semi-unicorn or unicorn companies in that space. But now we have real big movements happening in this sector. So, these are things which I would like to mention. Of course, healthcare products are also thanks to pandemic, it has given them, real reason. But at the same time, one more thing, which is because it was pandemic, the supply chain disruption has happened in India. You will see many good companies into supply chain now, right? And forget about not only in the agri supply chain, but in other sectors also. So supply chain disruption, while you have in the world, there are many unicorns in the supply chain. You will see in the next few years, many good companies in the supply chain in India.
Sure. Thanks, Apurv. What about you, Ashok? What do you think?
Yeah. So as most of the people have mentioned, so fintech definitely is going to be so when we look at the investment landscape for the last 6 months, it's all fintech, edtech, also food tech is coming up, the e-commerce, and definitely the healthcare. The pandemic have created the health tech industry in a big way. And when we speak about the unicorn landscape, the investment have been to the fintech, the e-commerce, supply chain, and the logistics. So as mentioned before, agri-tech is definitely coming to be the next good player, and definitely the collaborative mindsets of different ecosystems are also increasing. So that's what I have to say.
Wonderful. So, when I read newspaper, right, I get a clear feeling that almost 1 out of every 2 deal has got money from this small panel that we have here, right? So you are kind of investing almost in 1 out of 2 deals that I read in newspaper. So, I think you can very good give our viewers understanding of, with this changing landscape, what are the 2-3 core things that you look in a startup today? What are your key criterias in a startup? Just top 1 or 2 or 3 criterias that you look into when you take an investing decision on them. I'm sure those are changing as well with time.
Yeah, Charles, I can kick off if you want. I mean, we're kind of a strange investor because we don't invest very much money and we take a fair amount of equity. So it's not a great deal for people. So we really need to actually be able to help the companies that we invest in. And the 2 things that we help with are we give free advertising, free user acquisition on the consumer side to all the companies in the portfolio. So I think we're one of the very few people that can do that. I'll give you an example. One of our companies, Kootloot, and that I think you guys are. Dr. Port's like familiar with them, but yeah, of course, they scaled up to maybe number 14, number 15 in e-commerce in Google Play in India, but they only really raised $4 million, right? So they did it without capital because scale without advertising, or customer acquisition cost of 0. And the second thing that we're doing is we're helping companies sell across Asia. So there's a lot of cool software tools and technology. And a lot of companies start by selling their SaaS platforms or whatever in India. And then instead of, of course, can expand to the US, and we do help the US, but we also help selling across Asia. We're engaged with 230 multinationals, and 42 of them are running paid pilot programs for $20,000 paid pilots. And 27 Fortune 1000 companies invested in our fund. So it's sort of like a one-stop shop for corporate sales, especially across Asia. So those are the two things. I mean, if we can help with those two things. So if it's still a company in search of product market fit, probably not a great fit for us because we help with sales and scale up. Thanks.
Understood. Yeah. So just to clarify, so basically you have your own ecosystem, and if a company can fit into that ecosystem, benefit from it, then you find that that's the right company to get into, right?
Yeah, there's no reason for somebody to take the dilution unless we can help. So that's really what it comes down to for us.
Makes sense. Yeah. What about you, Apurv?
Last 1 year, I think this year end we'll be doing around 220 investments between the two entities, 9 Unicorn and BCATS, close to $300 million investment going on. What we look at these startup founders, there are two things: ability to raise the larger rounds in the future. Second, how good they are in their own business. That's where because 80% of my investment is, in the idea stage and seed stage.
Right.
So these are two places. If they fail, I don't look at in the business at all. And once they clear this, then I look at the other aspects, because these are the two places I can't compromise, right? So we do a lot of thorough due diligence around this. After that, there are other things in our, which everybody looks at. So
I'm glad that you said that, Apurv. A lot of people don't say that, but I think I'm glad that you said that ability to raise the next round is very, very crucial. And of course, founder market fit is very critical. Why is this founder destined to win in this market?
Yeah. For us, that is a priority.
Excellent. I think it's a great investment thesis. Thanks, Apurv. Ananya, what about you? I mean, I understand your investment in Mahila Money, and I have seen Sairi very closely growing and building her business. So I get some idea about what is your investment thesis, but give a little bit more depth on that front, please.
Sure. I mean, everyone looks at a lot of similar things like founder fit, etc. But I know that we have a lot of entrepreneurs joining us today. So I think one thing that I wanted to share that I've been coming across very often is that I think founders chasing after market sizes that are too small, and trying to raise venture funding. Now, of course, every VC has their kind of, is it a 5 billion market size or 10 plus billion, etc. But some of the things that I look for is, has the founder done both bottoms up, top down analysis of how big is the market? And then, it's like the next question is timing, because in the next 5 years, will there be a multi-billion-dollar company in the space that you're targeting? And I think these are the two questions that founders can ask themselves as, kind of the first betting, because this is what every investor is going to ask you. And I find that this is often something that hasn't been done, and it would just save them a lot of time going after the wrong market. I'll let others answer because, of course, there's so much else that one does look into, but top of mind was this.
Absolutely, Ananya. What about you, Ashok? What do you think?
Yeah, so we always, for the early stage investment, we as a government organization, we look at the scalability of the product, and if there is a problem statements coming around that particular product, and that scalability is great, we definitely supporting the early stage startups. And what we are also looking into the participation of venture capitalists to this early stage funding grant, which is given by the state or the state government, and whether that can be scalable by the next round of investment from the VCs. So that's what we are looking for.
And Simon, of course, you invest in a lot of funds yourself. So what do you look at those funds when you put in your check into them?
Well, we're investing also in early stage startups through Plus VC. And what we're looking for really is the ability for that startup to ensure that they're relevant to the Arabic speaking Middle East and North Africa market. And of course, the ability to scale initially within that market. We're increasingly concerned about sustainable development goals and whether the startup has a product or service that in some ways helps to meet those goals. But because we're focusing very much on early stage startups, we are completely sector agnostic, but we focus very much on the team. The quality of the team for early stage investors is absolutely essential. So that's the real priority for us.
Excellent, great to hear. I think it's very diverse thinking process. So it kind of creates a combined, thesis, which maybe can be useful for founders to at least align their own thinking process if they are getting qualified enough to get invested or not. So moving on from here, I would like to understand from you what is disrupting this whole space of investing itself, because obviously you are investing in disruptive companies, but I feel that the space itself is getting disrupted. You are seeing micro funds, micro VCs, then you see large mega funds like SoftBank coming in and writing check. Then we have got the tiger all over, who is moving in at a pace of a tiger, keep investing. They call it programmatic investing, as I have heard from a lot of people. So how is the space itself getting disrupted? Because again, a lot of time when we say that, there are different layers, we see that these layers are also being penetrated across. So for example, when Accel comes and launches Accel at, the early stage investments, and Sequoia does Sequoia Surge. So I think everybody's entering everybody else's territory. So how do you kind of think about this whole industry and the disruption happening here? William, you might like to go first.
Yeah, sure. So I don't mind. So I think the challenge is that, for the 80 years or plus that there's been VC, VCs invest in innovation, but there hasn't been any innovation in VC itself, or very little. And a lot of that is because the LPs hold things back. They need to justify their, existence by choosing sector or choosing geography. We're a global fund. We're multi-sector. Hardware, biotech, and internet software all in one fund. So we kind of break those rules. We think tech is global, but for internet and software, at companies like say A16Z, they sort of joke that they're a media company that monetizes through equity, and because they're doing so much media and PR. For us, we've had to really differentiate. So we're like a sales partner, a consultant. We're also an advertising platform. So we're actually an internet company, but we monetize through equity. And so everybody's getting into everybody's territory. I think what most people don't understand is that they think there's many startups and few VCs. There's actually many VCs, and all they have, they all have the same color money, right? But there's few good startups. And so it's a lot more competitive. And for the investors, they need to work very, very hard to make themselves stand apart.
What do you think, Ananya?
Yeah, agree with what William said. Just to add, I think, again, just taking an entrepreneur's perspective, what's happening is a kind of a democratization of access to venture capital funding. On the one hand, of course, you've got the large VCs that are going into earlier stages, but you also have this huge base of retail investors writing angel checks, people like me syndicating deals, so on and so forth. So I think from a startup's perspective, the first obvious thing is that it's great because you get more access to capital opportunities. So there are not like 3 VCs in town. When I was a health tech entrepreneur, you had the same 5 VCs you went to for each round, or not for each round, but who everyone went to at particular stages. I think now there's a lot more diversity, which is great. Both, diversity of LP base. But the second thing is, I think that I'm particularly excited about the rise of things like syndication and pooling of creation of mini funds. And the reason is because, whatever VCs say and do, that they're managing multiple portfolios, and there's very, unless you're an SOSP, in which case you can, your whole business model is about providing value-added services. A lot of VCs, at least in India, are still just focused on capital provision, and as a result, there's actually limited support that having a VC on your cap table can do. What I'm particularly excited about is when we think of venture angel syndication. An entrepreneur gets access to people who are established professionals and entrepreneurs in their own fields and who have skin in the game in supporting you in your early stages of growth, who probably have more time to spare and bring a lot more networks than one VC can do so. So I think from an entrepreneur's perspective, the current changes in how venture capital is evolving is actually very, it's beneficial.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, Ananya. I have been seeing how deals are coming, in dozens and hordes on Angel List US, and they come and get subscribed within hours, and it's absolutely mind blowing. So, I mean, very, very valid point. The syndication is getting there and kind of almost competing with small VCs. So, even people who are professionals working in X, Y, or Z company, they are opening their syndicates and doing 2-3 deals in a month, which only earlier VCs used to do, or small that kind of deals. Now even professionals are coming in and doing that. So like almost everybody is becoming a VC in a way.
Yeah, which is, I don't think it's a bad thing. You've also got Republic and WeFunder where you're just going directly to retail investors. So I think
absolutely. And Apur, you have been the the guiding light of disruption in Indian ecosystem. Like you are across the sectors, right? You have a fund, you have got angel network, you have got all these things. So would love to hear from you. How do this industry?
I'll tell you some data points. I think that helps to understand everybody. The Dukaan, when we opened, it was closed 14 crore in just 6 hours. My angel. And, yeah, so kind of this, the money which is available in idea stage and seed stage in India is amazing these days. And the reason why it is because you are sitting on 60 unicorns now and 400 plus semi-unicorn companies. And there are only 100,000 startups. Unlike China, where you have 1.5 million startups, okay? There are only 100,000 startups. So obviously too much money is chasing these startups. And not only this, Indian diaspora in US has created 67 unicorns. So the competence of Indian diaspora founders has been proven to the world. That's why too much money chasing to the Indian diaspora founders. And that is why you see when I launched the 9 Unicorn Fund, which was 1 year back, I was subscribed within 1 year fully. And then after that, 100 million. And then, when I started investing was $100,000. My first check to club was $100,000. Within 2 months, I realized this check has no value in India. In the idea stage, I realized if you don't cut a check of $1 million, $500,000 to $1 million, you won't find a good deal, right? So today I'm investing at least $250,000 to $1.5 million in startups. So the landscape has changed completely here. It is no more the same India, which was there, I'll say even 9 months back. And thanks to pandemic, they taught us a lot, frankly speaking. If this would have not happened, this disruption would have not happened. Because almost every 10 days, last 9 months, 1 unicorn was declared.
Yeah.
Consistently, right? And this is nothing but because of the digitization of this whole space, which was actually the biggest hurdle in the growth of our Indian startup ecosystem. So I will thank the pandemic to help us because this has actually brought the real digitization in India. And now since the real digitization is happening, it's at least a 500 to 1,000 unicorn economy in the future, right? So we are reading it and we are seeing it day and night. Between my angel network closing close to 12, 15 startups every month, 9 unicorns doing last 9 months, 17 investments. And this is all check sizes at ideal stage, check sizes anywhere $300,000 to $1 million. In the seed stage, it has gone to $500,000 to $2 million. So it has changed. It is no more the same $100,000 check. The market has completely changed.
Yeah, I remember, 2010, if someone's valuation was more than $500,000 in an early stage company, people's eyebrows would go up. But now if your valuation is in $500,000, you will actually, your eyebrows will go up that, this is not the right company to invest in possibly. The whole thing has swapped within 10 years time. So
two major factors, sir. One, because of, you would have heard Tiger investing a lot of money in India. We have been hearing also a lot. Secondly, is that IPOs have actually set the tone in the market. Suddenly, this IPO has shown the exit scenario to every investor who's investing in startup, right? So this is a big event actually happened. IPO event is a huge event, which has changed the mindset of every investor, which was hidden in the tier 2, tier 3, and tier 5 cities in India. Suddenly, that money of tier 5 city has started coming to invest in a startup, which was not there in the past.
Sure.
And that's a huge money.
Absolutely, absolutely. Simon, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, in this opportunity for crowdfunding, debt crowdfunding, but non-equity crowdfunding. We're involved in a new equity crowdfunding platform called BambooCorn, which is a tokenized equity crowdfunding platform out of Dubai. And it's getting a lot of interest from founders and entrepreneurs across India as well. You know, it fills quite an important gap. Every ecosystem is different, and every ecosystem has different funding gaps where, you know, startups can find it difficult to raise capital at a particular stage of their development. But for us in the Middle East, we think equity crowdfunding and debt crowdfunding can fill some important gaps. And we're also interested in seeing whether some of those products could be Sharia compliant, because that will suddenly open up tremendous potential to get the Islamic banks, the Islamic family offices actively involved in startups. And finally, one of the other challenges we face here is how do we get more qualified angel investors? And, you know, we see crowdfunding as kind of a kindergarten for angel investors. They can dip their toe in the water by getting involved in a few crowdfunding platforms and then later graduate to become angel investors in their own right. So watch this space. We think this is quite an important development here in this region.
Absolutely, Simon. Ashok, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so as rightly mentioned, the pace of investment have raised when we come to the figures. So from 2011 to 19, it says it took 108 months for India to have at least 27 unicorns. And now we are speaking about 63 unicorns, and it took around only 20 months. That's one part. And same with the investment landscape also, on the valuation part. So it took last 6 months, around 543 deals of about 10.15 billion USD came to around 491 startups. And in 2020, it was 881 deals to at least come to 9.94 billion. So from the government perspective also, so we have gone through the HNI network to bringing more HNIs to be part of the startup ecosystem, and to make that this startup is also an asset class, and these HNIs can do invest in the technology startups, and that is actually have created a great impression among the HNI network in the state as well. Also, the government also come up with the fund of fund program, wherein we will be a limited partner to bigger funds, wherein the bigger funds can invest in the startups. So that also have really bring in more investment to the state in a state perspective.
Excellent. William, coming back to you, do you think, I mean, we are seeing that excessive funding is happening in places, right, where maybe the company does not need that amount of money, but nonetheless, investors are, getting over them and saying, you take my money, and it's all over, right? So do you think this excessive money that's coming in more than what is required was any kind of a problem? Do you see that will create a bubble which can disrupt the industry?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's usually what happens, right? Most engineers can't tell a good startup from a bad startup, and so when they're all funded, they just sort of make a decision on where to go based on the salaries. We're also seeing currently like massive wage inflation in India. We're actually helping our Indian startups recruit engineering and programming talent outside of India because it's cheaper than in India right now. And between people from the U.S. hiring Indian talent and then the local scene, there's the prices are going up. So the investors chase the money, and then the money chases the people, and it's just vicious circle. So we'll see how things go. I think it'll be I don't know, maybe bubble is the wrong word, but you are seeing massive inflation, and things are going to get a lot more expensive.
Yep, and traditional businesses like us are hit the hardest because we don't have VC money to spend, so we cannot pay that insane salaries at times. So
if you look at the Fortune 500, increasing their Fortune 1000, more and more of those companies are startups. What we're doing is we partner with traditional industry to bring innovation from startups to them, so that they can maintain competitiveness. It used to be average S&P 500 company would stay in the S&P 500 for 30 plus years. Now it's like, I don't know, 11, 12 years, something like that. So these traditional businesses are going to get whacked, and you're already seeing across multiple markets, especially China, and really getting destroyed.
Sure. And Ananya, what do you think? Again, if you can just also speak in a little bit in the context of, since so much of money is coming in and there is a FOMO which is getting created, especially among those investors who are new in the game and who are not like traditional angel investors, who are now getting into the syndication game, because a lot of people are joining syndicates. They have never been investors. They might invest in 7-8 companies, out of which all the 7-8 might shut down. And obviously they will have that feeling that, this is a gambling den, right? So what do you think about that? How do you think it can be managed? Your views on that?
Yeah, I mean, look, I've seen enough VCs to know that no one possesses a crystal ball, so maybe it's all a gamble. We all go by our thesis. But it's true that there is all this money in the system is propping valuations up beyond what, can be considered reasonable and tenable. Which is one of the reasons why we also started looking outside of India, because, we're seeing similar business models in markets that actually have better, for instance, Latin America has better internet penetration, higher, per capita income, so on and so forth. I think if I understood your question, it's it's targeted at angel investors. Yeah. And how should angel investors look at the scene? Yes. I still think that the best strategy for one particular angel investor, so if you're an angel investor, it's still just, whenever you make an investment, you make it with money that you're happy to say bye to, that you're not going to look at. You look at it from an asset, diversification, like a portfolio diversification point of view. And that is that, you're allocating the way you have certain income parked in stocks and shares, perhaps a little in mutual funds. You look at you allocate a certain part of your portfolio to high risk, high reward, and you spread it across maximum number of startups. I think the pressure on angel syndicate leads is to, just shifting gears now to syndicate leads. With valuations coming up and everyone has access to every deal, everyone goes, in Southeast Asia, everyone lands at the doorstep of Antler demo days, in the US, Y Combinator demo days, so on and so forth. Everyone has access to everything. I think that this is where, syndicate leads should be looking at building networks of people that can really add value and choosing deals that they can, so it's not just about it's a great deal or it's a hot deal. It's also about where you can add maximum value. And at the same time, I think, personally, I mean, everyone will differ. I know that a lot of investors say, even if it's like very high valuation, if it's worth it, go in, so on and so forth. But we have walked away from deals that we found that the valuation just wasn't reasonable. And, we'll know in a couple of years whether that was right or wrong, but, that's how it is.
Sure. And Apur, what do you think? Like, too much money will be damaging for the ecosystem, for the startups, or do you think it's fine?
See, India is on a cusp of going to be in next 5 to 7 years, at least 2 million startup economy. So this money which has started flowing will be utilized there, right? So this is today because first time probably people have seen success, people have started making money. So this is just I'll say the interest getting accumulated towards it, but it will be rationalized in the future, right? But let me tell you one thing, this is what you're seeing in the other markets like US, A16Z disrupting the VC space there, you know, world over the disruptions are happening. There are traditional models which are built. For example, YC built an accelerator model that's going to completely disrupt in the near future. You saw the AngelList model that's completely getting disrupted in India now. Because, you know, in Indian market itself is huge market. In the next 3 to 5 years, all these models, you'll find many new models getting emerged. We ourselves are working on 2-3 new models in this space and disrupting the whole space. So, like for example, tier 2, tier 3, tier 5 cities money was never into the ecosystem. It was only tier 1 cities money, right? Now, 40% market share is with tier 2, tier 3 cities and the startups there coming out from there. This is going to disrupt the whole market because that's huge in number. I mean, the way you can't even imagine the capital available in tier 2, tier 5 cities. It is, you know, tier 1 will shrink to 20%, right? And that will be the time you will see India will have 2 million startups coming from India. So, you know, and we are seeing it happening. You know, we are there for the last 6 years into this business. We have seen it happening from last 12% tier 1, tier 2, tier 2, 30, 40% now, right? So that is a big disruption happening apart from IPO, which you see now. So that, you know, which you guys see the big money chasing startups. I mean, it is all international money, big money. Indian people are still very conservative in putting money, by the way.
So when it comes to international money, Simon, why don't you tell me what's happening with this excess of international money coming into India or the emerging economies? What's going to cook up there, right?
Well, I think it's all cyclical. You know, there are certain markets that are very hot at the moment and there's a lot of money flooding in, but then things reach a balance. We talk about ecosystems. Ecosystems are all about balance, and sooner or later it'll correct itself. Either the money will go somewhere else or the number of startups and founders will increase to meet that opportunity and funding. So it all works out in the end.
Yeah. So we will all find the true value at the end of the day. Excellent. And what about Ashok? Ashok, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, so I don't think it's more of like a bubble kind of thing. But as mentioned before, the Indian investors are always looking at the right startups, and they are skeptical in investing in the startups as such. But choosing the right startups have different mechanism existing in India, and most of them will follow the path kind of thing. There are many VCs and investors who really look, scout, make the pipeline. Even the corporates are also making the pipelines and trying to get startups who are most associated with the clients kind of thing. And definitely more investment will come to this particular ecosystem as a whole. That's what my thought.
So I think, I mean, I can keep going. This is a wonderful panel, and I'm absolutely enjoying getting the different perspectives and learning, but I think we have to come to an end. So I'll just like to do a round robin. Maybe you can start with Ashok. You can take a minute or two to talk about anything that you had in mind, which I haven't asked you today. Or if you don't have anything like that, you can always pitch, because I believe in today's world, investors have to pitch to startups to get the best startups in their portfolio. So you can use these 2 minutes to do anything that you wish.
Okay, that's very interesting. So yeah, so definitely, as from a government perspective, what we speak about the startup ecosystem is all about bridging the gaps between the ecosystem player, primarily the stakeholders in the ecosystem. So also it's all about technology and innovation. And when we speak about the startup life cycle as a whole, right from the ideation, the product development, the piloting, the scaling up, the whole startup life cycle, there are many stakeholders who can be part of the growth of every startup. And actually this the scope of research and its development is also increasing. That also is healthy for the economy as a whole. And at the end of the day, from a knowledge perspective, emerging technologies are coming and new, and the government and the education system itself try more people to be capable of building a robust ecosystem with new technologies and equip upskill the existing youngsters as well as people who are working in different organizations. And when we speak about the ecosystem and the government as a whole, we actually, innovation in government itself is bringing lot many returns to the whole ecosystem as a whole. So I believe this definitely the startup ecosystem will bring much more value to the economy and impact to the economy. That is my take.
Thank you. Final thoughts, William?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, just some tips for your startup. Warm intros are always better than cold. I mean, most of the people on here have like thousands and thousands of friends, and we all have many portfolio companies. So try and work that network and get a warm intro. The second thing is just as the VCs are doing research on you, you should do your research on the VCs, look at the portfolio, talk to the companies that they've invested in, get their thoughts. The founders in the previous existing investments, get those founders' thoughts on the VCs. So do your work. And then the third thing is just because somebody doesn't invest in you now, it doesn't mean they won't later. So don't forget to keep in touch with people. Maybe not spam them every day, but VCs invest not in dots but in lines, right? So even though you might not be doing very well now, show how you're doing, so that when you do pick up, people can actually see that. Thanks.
Very useful thoughts, William. Thanks. Apurv, final thoughts.
To startups?
I mean, in general, and if you wish to even pitch, you can also pitch.
Okay, fine. So, guys, I think to startups, it's the best time because if you are somewhere in India and enough support is available to you guys. However, for international VCs or international family offices, it is the best time to collaborate in India because syndication, like Ananya was saying, is really hot. Yeah, and people are there to collaborate with everyone. We are here to collaborate and make fortunes of these startups. So I think 5 to 7 years, very good time to be focused on Indian ecosystem and time which probably China has 7, 8 years, 10 years back. Does that come here? So results are there. People are believing on what Indian startups are doing. So very good time to actually collaborate and create a very good ecosystem here.
Absolutely, Apurv. Ananya?
Yeah, sure. I want to respond to Sangeeta in the Q&A section, who said that she has an idea that she wants to help concretize. I think Sangeeta and other entrepreneurs who are, very early stage, you have an idea and you're looking for forms of support. Prior to InnoPact, I was actually co-heading Government of India's technology commercialization program, AGNI. And one of the biggest learnings that I saw working with thousands of entrepreneurs was that a lot of entrepreneurs, you're in tier 2, tier 3 towns, but there is one thing that you have universities that offer excellent incubation programs, and access to those kind of ecosystems give you the opportunity to be part of a network. It is those networks that you join and cultivate that will eventually lead to the warm introductions that William was talking about, access to syndicate leads, VCs, so on and so forth. And I think the second question that I'd like to address to entrepreneurs who are at that early stage and still deciding is that you may want to consider whether you want to be king or you want to be rich. You don't have to chase venture funded business models. You don't have to go after VC money. You just need to make sure that your business model matches your ambition, your vision, and the business that you're trying to run. There are a lot of businesses out there that are bootstrapped or don't go the venture funding route, and they're equally, if not, they're actually more sustainable, and there are lots of great opportunities for those businesses as well. going and raising money from a VC is not more prestigious. It's just a different kind of ball game that you need to be willing to play. Yeah.
So Ananya, I call it riding the tiger, raising any VC, because you have to give them the return at the end of the day.
Yeah, and you might get eaten along the way, but that's fine. That's the risk you both are taking. But yeah.
Yeah. Final thoughts, Simon. Then we basically, I mean, you have the final thoughts of the session. You are privileged to do that, man.
I'm honored. I mean, I think I just want to reaffirm that, the Gulf states, the Middle East startup landscape is probably 5 years behind that of India, but it is really poised to take off now. I'm really excited about it. And we would love to interact with investors, partner with them, but also with scale-ups from India. As they want to go global, I would encourage them to consider the Middle East as perhaps that first step to going global. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everybody. Simon, William, Ananya, Apurv, Ashok. It has been a wonderful session. It was very enriching and learning for me. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Abhishek, and thanks a lot to all the global leaders joining this session. I think we have already been receiving wonderful comments both online and on social media as well for how this session was really amazing. With this, we would like to move on to the final session of the day. We have a state session from Government of Kerala, and I would request Mr. Ashok Panjikaran to stay back for this session. In the meanwhile, Simon, William, thanks a lot for joining in. Wonderful. So we now come to the final and the most, the next very interesting event, which is talking about Kerala startup initiatives. And to do this, I would like to invite Mr. Ashok Panjikaran, Head of Incubation at Kerala Startup Mission. Ashok, thanks a lot. Over to you.
Yeah, hi. Hi, everyone. Thank you. Thank you for ICC to give this opportunity. So, so we have been associating with us ICC for from the Startupation part itself, and it's great that they have come with a startup week, which is the need of the hour to engage more startups and the stakeholders in the ecosystem. I would like to share my screen. So is it visible now?
Yeah, it is visible. You might want to do a full screen and go ahead.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, is it visible?
Yeah.
Yeah, hi. I'm representing Kerala Startup Mission. So Kerala Startup Mission is the state nodal agency which support technology startups in the state. So we have we are doing multiple interventions to connect the stakeholders, primarily to network and to collaborate with the stakeholders and support the ecosystem as a whole. So what we have done is primarily engaging multiple stakeholders with the startups, starting right from the ideation stage and up to the scaling up stage of every startup. So when I speak about the startup ecosystem, we have close to around 3,000 plus startups with multiple accelerators, around different incubators, also different mini incubators as such. So why we are bringing the whole ecosystem together is like, so we have our pipeline right from the schools, colleges, and to the bigger, larger ecosystem, which we have the digital hub or the startup ecosystem hub itself. So what we found is like a lot of innovation happening in the startup sector, and lot of traditional business are now trying to bring more startup engagement, and more startups from the early stage startups are also coming. So at the early stage, it was like in 2014, 15, it was all college startups or student startups kind of thing. And now professionals are coming to the ecosystem, and more people with a lot many experience are also coming to the whole startup ecosystem. So the state government have purposefully taken a call, like we will be supporting the startup ecosystem at different modes in the sense, right from building the pipeline of startups, right from engaging or upskilling the startups, engaging much more investors, angel investors to be part of the ecosystem. Also, to have lot many research-oriented activities happening in the system. So all the capital kind of activities, capital like infrastructure facilities, connecting the vendors, bringing more advisors, bringing more research-oriented subjects to the ecosystem. So all those things we have created, and now the ecosystem is slowly growing, and growing in a much bigger phase than before. So when we speak about the journey of the Kerala Startup Mission, so we started as a small incubator. As every startup, we also started as a small incubator, and eventually the growth have developed in such a way, like we were the top performer for last 2 years and by the Startup India, and we have got accolades from UBI Global, which was one of the global agencies, to as one of the top world #1 public business accelerator. So these all things happened only because of the interventions the state government have taken in supporting the ecosystem. So we always were a facilitator. We were not going deep into the startup activity as well, but being the facilitator, we tried to bring all the stakeholders together, have given an avenue to engage the stakeholders with the startups. All the hassles have been taken away from the ecosystem, and it was so free to be part of the ecosystem, and then the growth happened. So when I always speak about the stakeholders. When we speak about the stakeholders, it's all about the community, the accelerators, the state government, the research centers, the investors and VCs, the technology incubators. So the technology incubators, definitely they are the helping hands for every ideation stage and to a product development stage startups. So lot many interventions are happening in the state for startups, and startups who have good idea, early stage ideas are nurtured by giving lot many different funds, market access, and the government also have been opened to bring lot many problem statements, put lot many problem statements to the startups, and those startups who have got good problem statements are also growing exponentially. So that is also a positive sign for every startup ecosystem to develop or bring a pipeline of activities which at the end of the day create value to the ecosystem. So we have a technology innovation zone in one of our bigger area. It's a 5 hectares of startup park, to say, wherein different types of incubators are there. There is a hardware incubator, there is a biotech incubator, there is an ITS incubator. So any startups who come to this particular location can have a feel, can have hand-holding right from that minute itself, to whether to continue with the idea, whether this particular idea can scale up at a certain stage, or whether you should drop this idea or come up with a new idea, or if similar ideas exist and this is the growth of that similar idea when it came to a product kind of thing. Such kind of initial information is available in the locations we propose. So also we have different labs available, technology labs, digital fabrication labs, wherein a rapid prototyping centers are also available. So that is actually ideal for every hardware startup to start with. So they always find it difficult to scale their operation in the rapid prototyping, and we have all the facilities which is really needed for a startup to scale from a hardware incubator to say. So recently we launched the Digital Hub, wherein we say it will be the world #1 design plus rapid prototyping center, or the design or product development center. So these type of interventions are so specific to the state, and also we identified these sectors, saying like there is a large opportunity for startups to scale globally. So, so every in Kerala, every startup recognition, we have a unique ID. So any person, so if it's a investor, if it's a mentor, if it's a startup, or if it's a research or innovator who need to understand what the Kerala ecosystem looks like, there are a set of certified startups wherein you can go through this particular certified startups and understand. So if you are looking for an AI-enabled product or SaaS product or something like that, so there will, and if you go through the search menu, you will get the list of startups who are in that area and the basic information about the technology they used, the product use case, and what solutions they propose is available in that particular platform. So that will actually help the mentors or the investors or any stakeholders to get the first engagement with the startup in Kerala. So if a mentor or investor find the startup so appealing, so they can either directly interact with the startups, or through Startup Mission we will facilitate the whole process. So to make things happen easily, this particular unique ID process, so this particular platform is called startups.startupmission.in. So from there, you could get the list of all the startups who are working into different technologies and different sectors. So again, so all our startup related activities and the startup pipeline development is made on a startup puzzle model. So wherein the first layer of puzzle, we speak about the inspiration, the education, and the actual play of the startup activities. And the second layer, we speak about the growth phase. That's the product development, product launch. That's primarily the go-to-market kind of activities, the growth activities, and the impact which they will be able to create. So on the inspirational part, we have lot many. So that is primarily the pipeline building of the aspiring entrepreneurs. So we do lot many activities in and around the inspirational part, wherein new young minds come to the state mission and pitch the ideas, and if that particular idea is good enough, lot many grants are also available. So the Innovation Summit, the Huddle Kerala, the Seeding Kerala, the She Loves Tech. So all these are specific programs which inspire much more startups to the state, and lot many good startups come up from these particular events kind. So this is primarily a pipeline building activity for the state mission. And the education part, we always inspire the startups. We always speak about great things about the startup. So there should be some sort of education activity happening on how the startup can be developed, how the whole system can be developed. So this educate, we have around 280 technical education colleges which are linked with the whole ecosystem. And the technical education, there are 280 innovation cells which we call the mini incubators. So if I'm studying in any colleges or something like that, so I can go to this particular mini incubator and pitch my idea. And if that particular idea is good enough, that will be taken to the next level of pre-incubation, and the startup life cycle of that particular idea starts. So that's the process we follow in the state mission. And this actually have helped lot many startups to ideate and scale the products. We also have different design summer schools, Fab Academy, electronics at schools. So all these will give educate the students, educate the youngsters, give more technology inputs, give more trends, what all trends are happening in the emerging technologies. So all those things will be available in the education part. And now we go to the play part, wherein the actual product development or prototyping or rapid prototyping kind of activities happen. So we have a Super Fab Lab, which is the second one out of MIT campus in US. And we have a lot many future labs and lot many innovation challenges, which give small seed fund to the startups at the very early stage, at the ideation stage. So that also is creating a pipeline for good startups who are starting to develop the product development. And now we have the launch program, wherein a lot many incubators are associated with. So from the pipeline of pre-incubation, we have the incubators pipeline, wherein they nurture their ideas and help the startups to develop the product and pilot that particular product. And the next growth stage, there will be other set of activities wherein the accelerator programs come into being, and lot many international business delegations are also made available for the startups. So these are helpful for the startups to grow at an exponential manner. And when we speak about the impact, so we have the fund program and business for startups program. Also, we have lot many corporate innovation programs. So wherein government is also a marketplace for the startups. Government opened its market and be a marketplace for the startups. So these are some of the evangelization activities when I speak about the inspiring part. And on the education part, we have all the summer schools, the IEDC network, the Fab Academy kind of thing, and it's listed geotagged across the state. Also, when we speak about the Fab Lab, it's the actual prototyping building activity happening, and it is going pretty well. And when we speak about, again, the future technology lab, wherein GPS machines are available, wherein they can work the products kind of thing. On the launch program, we have physical infrastructure as well as the virtual incubation program called Fail Fast to Succeed, which will actually help the startups to either succeed fast or fail fast at the very early stage. So these are some of the specialized incubators we have. We also have the launch programs and different patent support, innovation grants, and R&D funds are available. So when we speak about the growth stage, we have different global exposure programs, different accelerators are associated. So this is one of the Business for Startups program, wherein we help startups to showcase their products. Some of the international delegations wherein the startups products have been taken to different parts of the world, and different collaborations have been happened. And this is the Fund of Fund program, wherein state come as a limited partner, and investment come to the startups. On the government engagement, this is one of the government as a marketplace program, wherein the business from the government is also given to the startups. One of the interventions which the state government have taken made one of the company called Gen Robotics to be scaled in 2 years to 3 years time. And now recently they got the ET Awards and listed as one of the top startup in the social impact, to say. So I run the whole show because there was time constraints, and thank you. That's all about Kerala Startup Mission. Please feel free to contact me or Startup Mission if you need any type of support. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Mr. Ashok Panjikaran. I think that was a very interesting deep dive around the Kerala startup ecosystem and how it's planning to support the ecosystem as well. Really appreciate that. That brings us to the end of the inaugural day at India Startup Week by Indian Chamber of Commerce. with this, I would like to also take this opportunity to invite all the guests for the session tomorrow. As you know, the sessions are planned over the next 5 days. Tomorrow we have a very interesting and power-packed session where we are primarily focusing on fintech. We have very, very interesting and senior leaders coming from the fintech segment. We have leaders coming from banks such as Bandhan Bank, HDFC, DCB, etc. We also would hear from the SEBI view on sandbox and thinking within the sandbox. We'll hear on ideation to IPO. We have a very very interesting session from Odisha state, where we'll hear about the Odisha state and how they are contributing, and then we'll hear from some of the other experts for the day. So we'll look forward to host you tomorrow for day 2. And for today, I would like to once again take this opportunity to invite Dr. I think Dr. Singh is not here. So I think with that, we would like to conclude day 1 of Indian Chamber of Commerce India Startup Week. We have the parallel startup pitching session going ahead. So all the startups who have registered for the pitching session and you have received the link to join the session today, please join today. For all the startups who have not received the link, do not worry, as the pitching sessions are scheduled beyond today as well. So you'll receive an email very, very shortly. For any further details, feel free to reach out to any one of us at Indian Chamber of Commerce. Once again, thank you so much to all the guests, dignitaries and participants who joined us today on day 1 of India Startup Week. We have many more sessions coming over the next few days of the week. Thanks a lot. Have a wonderful week ahead.